FBI did not sustain any injuries. Police are looking for Matata, who escaped. The US is reopening its borders today to double-jabbed foreign visitors, ending the 20-month entry ban. The ban was imposed by former President Donald Trump due to COVID-19. It has affected non-US citizens from over 30 countries, including the UK and EU states, separating families and stalling tourism. Airlines are expecting a flood of visitors as the restrictions are lifted for those who are fully vaccinated and undergo testing and contact tracing. To sports, and Olympic champion Paris Jepchirchir won the 50th running of the New York City Marathon yesterday in 2 hours, 22 minutes and 39 seconds, surviving a thrilling three-way battle before sprinting for the finish line. And fellow Kenyan Albert Korir won the men's race in 2 hours, 8 minutes and 22 seconds. Jepchirchir is the first athlete to pick up Olympic gold and win the famed 5-bara race in the same year, with compatriot Viola Chepto and Ethiopian Ababel Yeshena finishing second and third respectively. And the FKF Premier League clash pitting Kakamega Homeboys and Bandari FC ended in chaotic fashion after a mass brawl broke out when the final whistle went. The visiting Bandari players hassled the referee, incensed by his decision to award the home side a late penalty, and were themselves subject of retaliatory attacks from the Homeboys fans. The match ended in a 1-1 draw, with goals from Benjamin Mosha and Brian Eshihanda cancelling out. What would have been a match-winning penalty was saved by goalkeeper Michael Wanyike. And Shabana FC made a slow start to their National Super League campaign after settling for a barren draw against Mara Sugar at fully packed Green Stadium in Awendo. Shabana, who finished 8th last season, were favourites against the newly promoted side, who put up a resilient defensive display to thwart the host. Shabana enjoyed the Lions' share of possession in the first half, but failed to make the most of it as the teams went into brick steel deadlocked. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refuse to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani maternity hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it
own
up.
money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Monday morning, bang on, bright and early. What does it look like on the roads this morning? It's actually just waking up in most parts of Nairobi. Jogo Road is building up slowly, getting to the roundabout at the City Stadium. Then spilling over onto Landis Road. There's some traffic there, but nothing too crazy at the moment. Coming into the CBD at the Museum Hill right there, a little bit of traffic, but coming out of Westlands is where you see a little bit more of it than going towards Waiakwe. The Red Hill Link Road, wide, free and open. You want to use that as an option to get into the city a lot quicker. Coming off of Pangani this morning is where you'll see some traffic. Thika Super Highway right now, however, free and clear all the way through and through into the CBD. We're looking at Uhuru Highway and a little bit of traffic right past Bellevue as you try to get into and out of South Sea. So that's where it's starting. The rumblings have just begun this Monday morning. We'll keep an eye on things and see what it looks like as we open up into the week. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter this morning. Text on 40127. We want to keep things moving this Monday.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The
It
only
is
way
8 minutes after 6 on the 8th day of November 2021. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Happy Monday. Happy second week of November. Wherever you're tuned in, karibuni sana. City Muga Ndu Okoh and Eric Latiff with you this morning. Ndu, how was the weekend?
Fine, thank you. Yes.
What did you do?
I sat around.
John is asking, what did you do over the weekend?
Right. Tell John, I sat around doing nothing beyond reading and writing. Quite a lot of reading, actually. I think my brain is...
What were you sitting on?
A seat.
No.
And expectations and dreams.
Okay. Really, yeah? That's what happened? City,
Yes.
what did you forget?
I didn't forget anything. I was merely studying this microphone.
Which is to your left.
Bring it closer to you. What happened to it?
It's not what... Yes, I don't know. Somebody moved it significantly. Yes.
It's too low.
It's not even too low. It's interfering with very many things that I do.
Okay.
So I was studying it to determine how best to the moment you
adjust
ask a
it.
question, how best to adjust it. And also trying to understand the thinking behind the movement that was made by whoever made this movement. Yes.
Somebody who needed to be there.
You know, this is what happens when you have shared properties. Okay. Yes, you think your adjustment is fine. Somebody else comes and puts the adjustment they think is fine. So, yes.
Not one person has carte blanche over how it will operate.
So now I am adjusting to that person's adjustments.
Okay.
But about my weekend, it was quiet, pleasant. I made a mistake on the weekend.
Just one?
Yes, it was one.
Okay.
One fundamental one. I was offered a drink, and I accepted, and it was a cold soda. That cold soda introduced a sore throat, and it has now introduced a cough.
What day was this?
I think it was Friday.
Friday.
So if Thursday or Friday. So if I sound like a croaking amphibian, it's with good reason.
Okay.
Blame the soda.
Yeah. I'm very specific, yes.
Because before that, you were fine.
Before that, I was fine. Just croaking like myself.
Blame the soda.
Yeah, now I've adopted some amphibious sounds.
At least not the person who offered you the soda.
But the person meant well. And to offer you a cold soda, they meant really well. They believed they were offering me something. And I, in my stupidity, was being polite. I knew very well I should not drink that cold soda.
And yet...
I drank because I did not
And
to
here we are.
offend this person that brought this cold soda.
I mean, how would they get offended if you just said,
Can I have a warm one, please?
Yes.
If you saw the ceremony with which that soda was brought, you wouldn't understand.
Okay.
Because I actually thought...
It had already come.
Yes, I touched it and I knew, oh, yeah. It's very good.
City, welcome. Blah, blah.
Anyway.
Pole.
Yes.
How are you, Eric?
I'm fine, thank you.
How was your weekend?
It was lovely.
Oh, lovely even. That's nice.
Rested. Yes.
Good.
So let's start with COVID-19 in numbers as City adjusts the other person's adjustments to the microphone.
In his life.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to look at something really quickly here. And it would appear as though the country is not going to meet its target of vaccinating 10 million people
Why?
in December. Why will you not meet the target?
Yeah.
Because we are just under 6 million in terms of vaccinations. And we're hoping to get to 10 million in December. Just in case you are not sure, December is next month, eh?
Yeah.
Today is the 8th. In the next 22 days, we would have hit December. And so there are worries from a lot of folk that, okay, it's possible that come December we would not have hit because vaccine uptake is low. As many people as were hoped would have been vaccinated by now have not been. Unable to attain weekly COVID-19 vaccination targets weeks to the 10 million target by December. This is according to the data from the Ministry of Health. According to CS Muthui, the ministry had set out to vaccinate 80,000 people every week by the end of September and 150,000 by December. Our weekly average daily is, however, between 60 to 70,000 people. Less than 1 million people have been vaccinated since Mashujaa Day, despite the Ministry of Health setting an ambitious budget, or rather target of 10 million inoculations by the end of December. Dr. Ahmed Halebi, who is a consultant pathologist, confirmed that the charts are showing a decline in the uptake of the doses. The number of vaccine doses administered daily has fallen sharply since Mashujaa Day. This is clearly seen on the tracking charts showing the decline in daily administration doses. So it doesn't look good in terms of trying to get those numbers up there. Please.
The government keeps briefing us about these numbers, right?
Yes.
And so we know we're not meeting the target. You know, this is a good thing.
That they're briefing us that we're not doing anything.
The thing is, no, we are doing something. 6 million. If they hadn't set these high targets, we may not even have gotten to the 6 million. I am pleased that we're actually discussing it and they are the ones who are giving us the information about the numbers and the shortfall. That is progress that has been made. It's being communicated. So you can then discuss what it is that needs to be done in order for us to be able to get that 10 million.
No, we don't need to discuss what needs to be done.
Okay.
They ought to do what needs to be done.
They just need to do it.
They know, Buana. You see, they're the ones who said 10 million and they had a roadmap for what needed to be done.
There's a reason why they set the 10 million.
Of course there is. There always is a reason why they set those targets.
It's achievable. It's achievable.
Of course it is.
So, like he's saying,
so
just
why are we
do
discussing?
We're discussing it because it is clear that the timelines, the parameters that they set were unrealistic.
No, they were not.
They were.
All of the indicators is what gave them this particular target in this particular time period.
No.
They put all of these things into consideration. They didn't just stick a finger in the air and say, oh, you know what, December sounds like a good date and this number sounds nice. No, there were indicators that led to this decision.
I am saying that the indicators and the parameters within which they were set were false. What do I mean? You figure out the numbers that you need per day in order to get to that.
Yes.
And you figure what it is that you are going to do in order to be able to achieve that.
Yes.
To put it simply, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. But before you say all these things, what is it that you had set in place that guaranteed that if you put these things in place, those numbers would come?
That's exactly what part of the planning is. So as you're working, you work backwards. Remember what Dr. Ahwale was telling us. So initially we had X number of facilities that were where you could get this vaccine. We are increasing the number of facilities. We are bringing in the private sector. We are bringing in faith-based institutions. We have the public institutions. The CECs in the counties are working on it. If all those things had been done, CT,
and yet people do not know. And did they? Thank you.
All those things needed to happen. Now, did they not? Was it unrealistic to expect that there should be communication?
It was unrealistic because so long as you didn't communicate adequately,
you see
that. Yes, Eric.
That is not the unrealistic. It's not unrealistic to expect that when you're rolling these things out, you're going to communicate.
Communicate to people.
That is not unrealistic.
It is unrealistic to expect people to come when they don't know.
Yes, it's unrealistic to expect people to come when they don't know, but it's not unrealistic to plan to communicate.
Oh, no.
Because that is in it.
The lack of realism.
You're saying that the planning was unrealistic.
Yes, it was.
But in communication was in the plan.
Eric, the end product is what determines whether all these things were actually good or whether the plans were actually realistic. The sum total, having looked at everything, then look at the results. It was unrealistic. It was unrealistic. All you require is one cog to be out of place. One. And in this case, it's communication. Spread it everywhere you like and even have it in the trees. People don't know where it is available. They're not going to go to get it. They can't. They won't. So the numbers will not be reached. That is why I'm calling it unrealistic. They themselves know full well
That it's difficult to communicate?
They know full well it is easy to communicate.
Yes.
They know
They
full
know
well
that, or you're
how
saying
to
that
get
they know
results.
that they knew that they would not communicate this. So then setting all of these indicators that would then eventually give birth to the plan and the strategy was the unrealistic part.
Yes.
They knew full well that
Yes,
they would not
they
communicate.
They knew because not long before this, we had a campaign, polio campaign, successful to the last T. Why? Because everything that they were doing was planned for and done with that knowledge. They went to the people. So people who know what they ought to do and don't do it, tell me, what do you surmise?
That's what I'm saying. We should not even be discussing this issue. Because the same ministry did polio. We should not be discussing the fact that they set a 10 million people target.
Then just do it.
We should not even be discussing it. Oh, now, I have
This
this.
did not allow this to be done.
What are we
and we
discussing?
might not meet it by December. No, just do it. As simple as
Because
pie.
nothing is out of this world.
I want to thank
communication
the two of you
is not unrealistic.
Thank you.
It's not unachievable.
Thank you.
It does not have to be on mass media. It has to be just people getting to know.
When people choose to agree with me this early in the morning, I can only say thank you.
19 minutes after 6, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. Are you online? Because we are live streaming the show already. SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Say hello to you. To us, we'll be saying hello to you shortly. Time for a break. Let's take a look at the weather forecast.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. They gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
he's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi hii umbo yako iko na
Nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right. In Nairobi this morning, light rain in some parts of the city. Highs of 25 and lows of 16 today. Be partly cloudy through the day, currently at 16. Clear conditions at 14 in Nakuru. Highs of 27 and lows of 14. 13 will be the low. In Nyeri, where it's clear currently, it'll go to highs of 26. Eldoret is mostly cloudy at 14. Highs of 25 and lows of 13. We're looking at light rain in Mombasa at 23 with highs of 31. Malindi, mostly sunny at 24. Highs of 31 and lows of 23. Kisumu is clear at 19. Highs of 31. Looking at clear conditions, a bit cloudy in Kakamega at 18, highs of 30 and lows of 17. In Kampala, it's mostly clear at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam is mostly sunny at 23, highs of 31 and lows of 22. Johannesburg is partly cloudy at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 10. Looking at mostly clear conditions in Lagos at 23, highs of 31 and lows of 23. Kinshasa this morning, raining at 24, highs of 33 and lows of 24. Into early afternoon in Beijing, and it's sunny at 3 degrees. It's going to go to a high of 4 and a low of exactly freezing at 0. Paris is clear at 3, highs of 12 and lows of 3. Most of Europe going into the winter, 7 degrees and clear conditions in London, highs of 12 and lows of 7. The Big Apple is still asleep Sunday night. It's 11 degrees and clear. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 12 and lows of 7.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
All right,
FM.
it's 22 minutes after 6. A very good morning to you. There are people who are online.
TJ Apache says, good morning from Goa. It's urgent, he says. Who is our education CS? Magoha? My message, amalize aende nyumbani. We can't entertain schools burning. My suggestion, close boarding schools. Let us go back to day schools. Well, all right. That'll be a topic for discussion this morning. Good morning to you, TJ. Charity says, good morning from Milimani in Nakuru. From Tanzania in Zanzibar, Hawkins Moshi says, good morning. Sky Karish, good morning, Eric, CT and Ndu. It's Monday. Happy New Week to you too. Samuel Muga, tuned in from Kakamega. And Rashid also is in Kakamega this morning. From Ghana, Amuzu Peter says, good morning. The Great Wall of Kino is listening. CT, Pole, I understand your situation pretty well, for I have lived with that for the longest possible time. Cold baths and drinks are not my thing. Jacob Luchima says, good morning, guys. Tuning from Turbo in Wasingishu. Benson Muma says, good morning from Mombasa. Karen Mumba tuned in from Zambia this morning. And Edgar Moses tuned in. Rogers Lai tuned in from County 001. Vincent Ogutu says, watching live. And Stanley says, another win. A Kenyan double in the New York City Marathon. Indeed.
Yes,
and
yes.
Beda Asti says, good morning. Macha is tuned in. We see y'all. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Someone else has actually also said good morning to us from Manila in the Philippines. Satwinder Rehal. Says he's been there for 15 years and he listens to the show from Manila.
Wow.
Every single day.
C'est bon, c'est bon.
From Nairobi to the world. CT, today's proverb.
Right. We are still in the land of the Masa, eh?
Right.
Today's our last day. And tomorrow we travel to Eastern Kenya.
Okay.
Okay? Eastern. It's this direction.
Okay,
East is everywhere.
Where the sun is rising from.
Got it.
This one. West is the other side.
I'm with you.
North is not the other side. Okay. Esuj erashe gejuk emusana. Please forgive me, those who speak this language.
How many E's do you have? Everything is starting with an E.
Yes, actually,
Esuj,
there are four words here.
Ejuk,
Yes, yes, there's esuj, erashe, nye, juk, emusana.
Okay.
A new idea follows an old one.
A new idea follows an old one. Okay.
Sounds obvious, doesn't it?
Yep.
But it's equally profound in its simplicity.
Really?
Well, look at it this way, okay? Every terminology that we use has to have a reference point. And in the absence of that reference point, whatever it is you're saying may not really make sense. Meaning there's always an aspect of contextualization. We may not say we are contextualizing, but it's something that we're always doing. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Sawa, a very nice one. Let's take a look at the newspaper headlines then. The Standard e-paper, I'll remind you again, is only 20 shillings per day, and you get premium content on the standardmedia.co.ke website, and also you get free access to 10 days of the Standard Media archives. That's some serious content right there. So what's in the headlines?
So there's a row.
There's a row.
There's a
row your boat.
You can row your boat. Sure.
Row, rabbit.
I'll ask later. Okay. So there's a row over CSs and what they can or cannot do, right? But there seems to be quite a number of these specific to CSs. The complaint by the UDA, that's the United Democratic Alliance party, accusing Cabinet Secretaries Fred Matiang'i and Joe Mosheru of engaging in campaigns, and the subsequent reply from the Electoral Commission has rekindled the legal arguments that played out in the Supreme Court in the first 2017 presidential petition. The question of the role of CSs in election campaigns and the legality of Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act were major grounds the ODM party leader Raila Odinga raised as he sought to have President Uhuru Kenyatta's August 2017 win nullified. In his pleadings then, Mr. Odinga had cited that he termed improper conduct of President Kenyatta and CS's Mosheru, Najib Balala, Mwangi Kiunjuri and Eugene Wamalwa when they gave donations to internally displaced persons to influence them to vote for Jubilee in 2017. Mr. Odinga argued that the cabinet secretaries are prohibited by the Constitution, the Political Parties Act, the Public Officer Ethics Act, and the Election Offences Act from participating in political activities. Apart from demanding that the 4 CSs be prosecuted, the former Prime Minister urged the court to declare Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act as unconstitutional for exempting cabinet secretaries from the requirements of impartiality, contrary to Article 232 of the Constitution. So, in his reply to UDA's letter, the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, made reference to the section and appeared to agree with Mr. Odinga's submission 5 years ago that it is inconsistent with the supreme law. We wish to observe that Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act seems to give cabinet secretaries and county executive members a lifeline to engage in political activity. The statutory provision no doubt falls afoul of the constitutional requirements outlined under Chapter 6. There is need for all state and public officers to uphold political neutrality. All right? In its complaint dated October 29th, UDA had demanded that Dr. Matiang'i and Mr. Musharu be removed from the multi-agency team planning for a free, fair and transparent election, since they are openly campaigning for Mr. Odinga. The party, which is linked to Deputy President William Ruto, accuses the CSs of violating the Constitution by being partisan, despite the role of the two ministries are supposed to play in the preparation of the elections. So, the law on one hand does not prohibit these individuals from participating in political activity.
In fact, it expressly excuses them.
It does.
This is what it says.
They're not listed, right? Okay.
23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. A state officer shall not directly or indirectly use or allow any person under the officer's authority to use any information obtained. No, not that one. I'm saying 23. I was reading 22. Sorry.
Okay.
An appointed state officer other than a cabinet secretary or a member of a county executive committee shall not, in the performance of their duties, act as an agent for or further the interests of a political party or manifest support for or opposition to any political party. You see? So every other state officer other than a cabinet secretary
is prohibited.
Or a CEC. So the law expressly says.
Go ahead, man. So what's the problem?
Now, that was now the argument before the Supreme Court. And they said it was ambiguous. It's not. There's no ambiguity here.
It's clear.
Yeah. However, does it go against Chapter 6 of the Constitution? Really?
Leadership and integrity.
And also the reason why we say that the cabinet secretary shall be apolitical. Raises some fresh debate.
Indeed.
Yeah. What's the joy? What's not? So let's discuss that actually and open up and hear what our audience would like to say about this later at 8 o'clock. There's another story here that I'll just want to read to you before we take the break and take a look at traffic. Okay? So the Deputy President had been invited to a church yesterday in Gilgil. Through the local MP, Gilgil MP, Martha Wangari, they had organized that the Deputy President was going to come and attend a fundraiser at the Holy Spirit Catholic Church in Gilgil. Holy Spirit Catholic Church in Gilgil, here as Ruto is coming, they're like, okay, now in fact, let's do this. Cancel the Harambee. Cancel the Harambee. So Deputy President comes there with his entourage, with the money bags, Harambee, hakuna. What does he do? Hii pesa nirudisha Nairobi? Hapana, watu wa Gilgil wata benefit. So they drove to a nearby AIPCA church in Kikope, where he sat on plastic chairs tucked on top of each other to raise it under a simple tent without the usual red carpet, an indication of rushed arrangement to host him. We take it that you are coming to AIPCA Kikope instead is an answered prayer. That's what they said, the member of AIPCA. It's not by mistake, but by God's design. It's now clear that your contribution will still come to this constituency. That's what MP Wangari said. When he rose to speak, Ruto thanked the church leadership for hosting him, reiterating that his attendance had come earlier than they had planned. We had planned to go to Gilgil, but God's plan was that we come to AIPCA, St. Joseph. It was not in our plan. I'm told you were planning to invite me, but I've come earlier. Now that I'm here, kamateni kakitu.
God's plan.
Oh, yeah. God's plan and
no
man's plan. No same. No same. People of AIPCA are the ones who are more deserving of this money. 28 minutes to 7, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a quick break. and see how the roads are looking like. And then we look at more newspaper headlines.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
All right, so what are we looking at this morning? It has already started to build up in most parts of the city today. Looking at the thicker superhighway, not what it was just a few minutes ago, but that we have traffic then building up, inching closer and closer to Survey, but not too bad at the moment. We're looking at traffic in the CBD building up as well. And also on Jogo Road, where it started early this morning. Langata Road also starting to bite in terms of traffic this morning. Gong Road looking pretty good. Bagadi Way also free and clear now, connecting you to the city much quicker. The Southern Bypass looking pretty good. That is an option for you to use, as is the Eastern and Northern this morning. Coming off of the Red Link Road, coming through Westlands, there is an option for you as well. Traffic is still at a dull roar, hasn't picked up quite yet. Coming off Mombasa Road as well, free and clear, not too much of an issue. When you get to that neck at Imara Daima, however, it's going to take some time to get out of that. Construction continues there. Uhuru Highway, one to watch out for today. Getting off into that direction, you might want to think twice and go the long way so you don't get stuck. Shall we take a look in about half an hour and see what it looks like? Let's do just that. You can text us in the meantime on 40127. Tweet as well on SpiceFM KE.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
It's 25 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're looking at the newspaper headlines. City, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at two things, two very interesting things. It's in the East Africa. No? One, the outgoing German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, received the highest possible French award. It's called the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor. Okay? This was bestowed upon her by the French President, Emmanuel Macron. I just thought I would mention this. In a part of France known as Burgundy. Okay? Now of interest, it's a case involving two ladies. New York had an extremely Boston had an extremely, that New York Marathon is still in my head, experience. For the first time in its history, first time ever in its history, they had a woman mayor elected. Not only woman, but a woman of color. Her name is Michelle Wu. It has never happened. Ever, ever, ever. The leadership in that particular city has been male-dominated. Now, you may ask why it is that I've chosen these two things. When I look at the features and the women on this planet who are capturing the news and who are the forefront of news, they're exceptional people. And what I marvel at is what they must have gone through over the years, because most societies on this planet are male-dominated, to get to the point where they're in that position of leadership. Since I mentioned the women, I'll just mention one more. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, she gave a speech in Scotland, a speech that will be remembered for a very long time. Spoke from her heart. What am I saying? We talk about the information age. This is the coming of women. It is the age when women take up leadership on this planet. And I'm seeing it more and more and more and more and more. I thought I would just mention it.
Okay. Good.
Worth noting, indeed.
Good. No, it's a very good thing. It's actually a very good thing that we're seeing more and more. And I think it's important to keep highlighting that some of these so-called advanced democracies are catching up with us now. Yeah, by for the first time electing women as mayors and governors.
Have you been doing it for quite
some time?
The first black mayor of Nairobi was
female.
A woman. How many years ago? Boston is catching up with us now.
The third largest city in this particular country had a female mayor.
Yes.
How many? 19, God knows.
A long time ago, surely. Okay. It's a good thing that they're catching up. Okay. Let them play some good catch up. Right. Now, mental checks. Murder suspects may no longer be required to undergo mental exams before standing trial. You know, this also has been happening. So every time somebody is taken to court and they're charged with murder, the first thing that the judicial officer does is to say, let them go undergo a psychiatric test. And it's been assumed for some time that that is the requirement. Until last week, where in a landmark ruling, High Court Judge Grace Nzioka said it's neither a provision in the legal statutes nor in the Constitution that murder suspects be subjected to mental tests before they can be called upon to answer murder charges. Justice Nzioka said the procedure of examining a suspect's mental health is a violation of their constitutional rights. The decision could open the door for judges to proceed with murder trials without ordering for a mental exam of suspects. Justice Nzioka said it's optional for suspects to accept mental assessments before pleading to murder charges. Explaining her decision on Friday, she said that the mental assessments have been used to delay murder trials, effectively contributing to the backlog of cases in the courts. So see, every time somebody is taken to court facing murder, they have got to undergo what? A psychiatric test.
Right.
And this psychiatric test can only be done by a public health worker, psychiatrist. Q. So you are basically in remand, waiting to undergo a psychiatric test. And then now you shall come in and take a plea. And Justice Nzioka is saying, look, people, there is no requirement at all wherever. In fact, it's violating that person's right by subjecting them to a forced psychiatric test. If they wish, they can come and say, Your Honor, before I take a plea, I'd like to be checked whether I am mentally able to go through this. However, it is upon the suspect themselves asking for it, not you saying, Madare. No.
But even as you say that, I assume that when you take a matter to court, you must have ample evidence that would support the case that you've taken there.
Yes.
Has this not been the debate?
Yes.
So if somebody has committed an offense that is considered a little bizarre, people who have stolen are not taken for mental tests. Nobody asks.
No.
Now, if somebody kills, why is it? It's because the act is considered heinous.
Yes.
And you want to ascertain that this person was in the right frame of mind. So if you're reducing evidence, and it has to be from their state of mind, and you need a professional to do it, how then, in seeking to actually ascertain the position you want to take, are you infringing on their right? When I believe you are augmenting it, because their right also involves you giving them a chance to actually be presented in the best possible light. Because they are innocent until proven guilty.
You see, the reason that is used to subject them to a mental check is to see whether they are
fit to stand trial.
Yes.
It's not
whether they were
connected
fit
to whether they were fit when they were performing this act,
allegedly performing the act. And it will have no relation to, at that point, it doesn't matter whether you are taken to court this year for a murder that was committed last year or tomorrow for the murder that was committed yesterday. It's just been a tradition that as long as the charge is murder, first, you have to be checked whether you are fit to stand trial.
It never really is about the act that was allegedly committed. It never really is about
if
that.
Somebody in their defense, and that's why now you're putting it upon them, if in their defense they want to say, you know what, I was not okay psychologically. Now they can say, subject me through a psychiatric test. But it has got to be them, if they want to use that in their defense, to say, it was not because of that.
Right.
Yep.
Let's look Africa-wide and globally for a minute.
Yes.
Africa now reads malice in the climate talks with the West. The chair of the African Group of Negotiators has asked Africa not to despair about the happenings at the 26th Conference of Parties, that's the COP26, ongoing in Glasgow in Scotland. By all accounts, keen observers have noted that things are not going the African way, raising jitters in some quarters. Speaking at a meeting with the African CSOs, Tanguy Gahuma from Gabon said the outset COP26 was not going to be an easy one, considering it was one to handle issues that had been pending over the last 2 years due to the COVID-19 global pandemic, whose outbreak last year led to the postponement of the meeting in 2020. We have spent this first week handling issues that have been pending since last year. Gahuma noted that the risk of infection with COVID-19 was still real even at the Glasgow event. A Gabonese delegate, he disclosed, got infected, leading to the quarantining of the entire team from Gabon. The African CSOs had sought a meeting with the AGN chairperson to get assurance that things were moving in the right direction for the continent and that matters concerning Africa were being taken care of. But the AGN boss lamented, "We have tried all we could." Gahuma said long before the COP26, the AGN had tried to have needs of Africa, namely adaptation, climate finance, and the need to consider Africa as special needs and circumstances region integrated in the texts of the COP. Before we started the COP, engagements had been started and we had pushed to have these issues in the agenda, he noted. However, major opposition to the African group had come from the major regional groups from Latin America, the US and the EU, who had objected to have these matters in the agenda, forcing the AGN to change its strategy and engage individual key countries with the hope of pushing on to ensure Africa's agenda gets into the COP agenda. That notwithstanding, it appears that the West has decided to prioritize achieving the 1.5 degrees centigrade, an issue that the AGN chairperson said Africa was not opposed to. According to the AGN chair, it is the African group that had first recommended that it be a priority during the 2018 Paris meeting. Program manager at the African Women's Development and Communication Network, FEMNET, said the Global North came to COP26 with the desire for technical conclusions, while on the contrary, Africa expected to see COP26 make strong decisions on the agenda that favors it, Africa. And that was the agreement, that now we are looking at Africa as a region that needed to have been considered. And that is what we had agreed that we're going to be discussing when we come to Glasgow. But nothing of that is being discussed. And what they're doing is, as opposed to considering Africa as a bloc, they're going after individual countries and trying to sway them, divide and rule. Right. And they're saying, you know what? Bangi.
This is just criminal. Criminal. You know, they should just walk out. Straight and must walk out. There was a statement also released by our own CS for Environment about the same, saying the same thing. And if then we are getting to, the global climate talks and we are not being considered, and yet we are bearing the brunt, and in fact we are the ones who are being told, stop doing, do not think about development with this kind of energy. Just walk out. Just tell them, you know what, You live in your world, we live in our world.
And don't come and start telling us about reducing and don't carbon print. No, leave us alone.
We don't have carbon print.
We don't even have that thing that you people are concerned about. We don't have.
Carbon.
You're the one who are printing it.
Let's take a quick break, okay? Looking at more newspaper headlines shortly. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation on SpiceFM, and live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And our website is www.spicefm.co.ke.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 13 minutes to 7, City.
Yes. I am actually looking at the East African, and I'm looking at the headlines. No longer at ease in Addis.
Right.
Now, they say tension is palpable in Ethiopia's capital as Tigray rebels and allies march on the city, and Abiy calls veterans to defend it. Will anyone give peace a chance? Why have I chosen this? Over the weekend, I was thinking about this, and the thing that kept occurring to me, matters did not need to have gotten to this stage. They didn't need to have gotten here at all. No.
What could have happened? What should have happened?
Remember, we were at the debating stage where the Tigrayans wanted an election.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister had a different idea. Was it not possible for an accommodation to have been arrived at that particular point in time?
Why were the Tigrayans calling for it? There was a scheduled national election.
There was a scheduled national election.
It was postponed by the Prime Minister.
Yes.
On account of COVID.
It was.
The Tigrayans said, no, we want to continue with our election now.
Yes.
Okay, so now, the accommodation here should have been either allow them to have the election or for the Tigrayans to say, all right, we see the sense, we understand, let's not have an election. We'll have an election in November, as you say.
An accommodation would have been to have a discussion for precisely that. This is what we're thinking, and this is what we want to. An accommodation. An accommodation means I give some, you give some, I take some, you take some. An accommodation. But if you have a situation where both parties make an intractable position and say, no, this is what we're doing, the other one, no, this is what we're doing.
That's where you have the today's
conflict.
situation. Yes.
Yeah.
Conflict.
Yeah.
And yet it was on a subject that for which an accommodation, in my mind,
But that
could have been found.
That subject, I think, was just one in a very long chain of dominoes. Remember, there's a whole issue of is Abiy Ahmed coming to dismantle the old order and coming up with his new party, which was calling what? Revival? What's he calling this? His party. So Abiy Ahmed has come and he has found what has been governing Ethiopia for a long time, the EPRDF. Says, all right, the EPRDF, it's a force. Now let's come up with a party that unifies the country. But everybody can understand what he's doing. What he's doing is he's in office as a result of protests that have been staged by majorly Oromo youth and the Amhara, trying to shake up EPRDF. Right?
Yes.
Abiy Ahmed, half Oromo, half Amhara.
Essentially, he's there as an accommodation
Comes
also.
in and he wants to do a purge on the Tigrayans who are occupying key government positions over the last 30 years. So that whole movement of even, shall we have an election or not, it is the understanding of both sides on what this election portends. Are you saying that, is there a likelihood that you're going to manage and manipulate this election such that people who are allied to the federal government are the ones who are going to be in charge of this regional government after the elections? And the regional government in Tigray then has people who are allied to the national government up there, but not people who are allied to the Tigray People's Defense Force. All those
Eric,
dominoes. So even if we had said that, okay, now let's have a conversation, the conversation would have been whether we want to have an election. Conversation would have been, what do you want to do with this election?
Okay. In this country, there is always a discussion that takes place when you have a change at the helm, when you have a change in our presidency.
Yeah.
And the change usually brings about a cry of marginalization. It began with the first president of the country, Jomo Kenyatta. When Jomo Kenyatta ceased being the president, he passed away. The complaint was, we are now being marginalized. We are now being put on. Okay? When President Daniel Arap Moi stopped being in charge, one heard the same story from people from his backyard. We are being picked on. We are being marginalized. Now, it's in this continent that we hear that complaint. In other parts of the world, the so-called first world, they have systems where when somebody's in power, it is expected that he'll bring his people. Nobody complains. They expect it. He's coming in. There are civil servants, like we all have civil servants, who never really seem to go anywhere. They're in the system. But there are others, you understand and you know that there will be changes. Now, 30 years in power is a long time. Are we witnessing a situation where you've been in power and you expect to be in power? So when there are changes, the understanding is you're being purged. Or is there evidence to show that actually there are changes? But must the changes be read as a purge? Must it? Must that be the understanding? I understand if I'm in a position of comfort and I'm no longer in that privileged position, I will not feel privileged. So is it that I'm being treated like everybody else and I'm complaining because I'm used to being treated in a privileged manner? Or is it that I'm actually genuinely being picked on?
And also the context of why are we having these changes? We're having these changes because there are people who've been complaining and they've been complaining about this exact same thing.
For a very long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
They've been saying that they feel marginalized. They don't feel involved. They don't feel included.
And worse still, you know what makes this discussion even trickier? Is if those in power are a small portion of that population, they feel, but they're a small number. Why are they dominating? See, the issue is dominance. Why are they dominating?
Yeah.
There was also the promise previously to include them in the same government, whereby they're not being included today, according to them.
Yes.
That previously, when we did sit at this negotiating table, quote unquote, that you had told us that we would be included. It's not happening.
Yes.
So then you're dealing with so many things. Accommodation not happening. There's a slew of broken promises and,
a lot of things. There's the question that you had asked last week, CT, on who's playing in Ethiopia.
Yes.
What's at play?
Yes.
And you brought in the issue of, the Gulf states, the Middle East states, Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And maybe also questioning whether the European powers
and their partner, their puppet masters.
Yes. The European guys are clearly at play here.
Yeah.
They're clearly at play here. So look at that demonstration that took place in Addis yesterday. Thousands of people flocking into Addis Ababa and saying they support what is happening, with the federal government. And they were denouncing America. And saying America is trying to meddle in these affairs and trying to manipulate things. And saying, And then if you also look at the kind of information that's been coming out of Ethiopia, by Thursday last week, you'd have thought that by today, the Tigrayan People's Defense Force would be in Addis. That was the message.
Yeah. No, the message was that if you're looking at Nairobi, the message was that they were in Kitengela.
No, they were right here. Despite them actually putting it there, they're about 400
kilometers away. Yes.
400 kilometers away is Malindi. They're about 400 kilometers away from the capital. People are in Malindi, boss. But today, they're nowhere. So there's a lot of information and manipulation of information. Look at what, for example, Twitter did. Twitter said, there's what Abiy Ahmed has called, and this is inciting violence, and therefore we are deleting that post by Abiy Ahmed. We are trying to monitor, and there are other people who are playing their games in Ethiopia.
Into this discussion something that must be considered. The Ethiopians in the diaspora.
Yeah.
And asking the question, okay, they are Ethiopians generally, but which region of the country do they come from?
Yep.
Because one of the things that our people do, it doesn't matter whether they're in the diaspora, they will be supporting the tribal affiliations back home.
Of course.
Because this is now a tribal issue.
It is a tribal issue.
So the Tigrayans abroad are supporting Tigray.
Yes,
the
they are.
Amharas are supporting whatever is going to be benefiting Amhara. The Oromo are also doing the same.
Yes. And wait, Kenya is going to be dragged into this.
It's already playing a game.
We are, but we're going to be dragged into it.
We're hosting conversations, we're hosting negotiations. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta released a statement where he was speaking to the issue and saying, we need to give, peace and whatever a chance.
The way I see it, Eric, the West is happy to have the Horn of Africa in turmoil. It serves their interest. How can you bring peace when there's already peace? Yes. How can they be peacekeeping forces when there's already peace? Do we have peacekeeping forces in Kenya? No. But if there isn't peace, then your intervention can be explained and it can be understood. Because remember, We know there's issues in Somalia.
Yeah.
Ethiopia now has issues. Sudan is what is happening. Southern Sudan has been happening in that same way for the longest time.
Yeah.
It's a country independent in turmoil.
We can't run away from the fact that there are very many who benefit when you have a state of war.
Yes.
There are people who've been benefiting for the longest time because of what happens in Somalia, what happens in Sudan and South Sudan. That there are those who have benefited economically, there are those who have benefited geopolitically. It is not a foreign subject. So that there are those who say, okay, let things actually blow up. Things blow up, we will be at a strategic position to come and swoop in and play knight in shining armor. And then we be seen and also held still, again, in positions of power and influence.
When this continent is at peace, you can actually get to understand just how powerful it is. When it isn't, the focus is on the turmoil and not on anything else. And even when we talk about the negotiating table as a continent, it becomes impossible because many of our members are dealing with internal strife. So how do they now start talking about a continental issue?
Yes.
But as all these things are unfolding, let's spare a thought for the people who are actually getting impacted by this.
Hundreds of thousands of children, school-going age and even younger, are not being able to access amenities, food, shelter, water.
Running away because of atrocities being committed by whatever warring faction there is.
Yeah, sleeping here today and then having the clothes on your back as the only thing to run away in the next few hours.
And this has been happening consistently in Ethiopia.
Yep.
Those running into Sudan, those coming into Kenya, coming into Kenya. And they're coming in large numbers.
Indeed.
It's a big thing. It's a very big thing. And yes, Olusegun Obasanjo, who's the man who's been given the job by the African Union to deal with it, ought to be given a chance to deal with it. And let's see that they bring peace and pacify this particular country. Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here for more. We're looking at what's been happening over the weekend, what we expect to see happening through the week. As we open up the conversations as well for you to participate, our numbers are 0719-012-600, SMS 40127, or you can even drop in a comment on SpiceFM KE on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Just tag us, SpiceFM KE, wherever you are. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are always here every weekday morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And that is CT Muga, who's coughing, and Ndu Okoh, and Eric Latiff. Good morning, it's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Maranda High School is the latest to report a fire in a series of fires that have been burning dormitories in various schools across the country. The management of the Maranda school said the cause of the fire was unknown and no one was injured during the incident that left 2 dormitories burned and property worth millions of shillings destroyed. Meanwhile, Form 3 and Form 4 from Buruburu girls returned to school today. Form 1 and 2 tomorrow, with every student directed to each go with 1,000 shillings to cover the damage. And a massive fire has consumed property worth millions of shillings at Gikomba Market. The numerous fire cases in Gikomba raises the question on whether the fires are lit on purpose or not. Friday last week, a Nairobi court granted the Nairobi Metropolitan Services the authority to expand Pumwani Majengo Hospital, land on which hundreds of businessmen and women have been running their businesses for more than 40 years now. The reform plan in the cancer management is likely to hit a snag after one doctor went to court to protest. Dr. Magari Gikenye told the court that he was aware of the plan to place the authority under the supervision of the military and officials of the Kenya Youth Service, he says, is illegal. In his defense, Gikenye retreated that despite the well-intentioned program, it was done without regard of the interest of workers who were last week required to work from home for 30 days. He also said the decision was arrived at before the main issue of corruption investigated by the parliamentary committee was addressed as proposed. This, as it has been reported that many of the employees assigned to work from home may not be able to perform their duties due to the inability to be integrated into the technology system they relied on in the office. The situation is expected to affect performance. Last week, the chairperson of the Parliamentary Health Committee, Sabina Chege, hinted at a plan to invite the KEMSA board led by Mary Mwadime to appear before it and comment on steps taken.
We might not interfere with what they are doing now, but once we have an understanding, we can be able only to offer an advice onto the way forward. But I would request the people who are working in KEMSA to remain calm. I understand we're given a letter to work from home. So as we say, people are going home. We are not even sure of how many people are going home. We only know that some people are told to work from home. So we would be meeting with KEMSA and we can inform the public better.
Now let's switch gears to matters politics, and ODM leader Raila Odinga will make a public declaration on whether he will be joining the 2022 presidential race on December 9th. Raila has yet to openly declare himself a candidate for the country's top seat. This despite making tours and holding rallies across the country lobbying for his Azimio La Umoja campaign vehicle. Raila, who was speaking to his followers in Majengo after attending a Legion Maria church service, promised to make his ambitions known next month. This as Deputy President William Ruto has welcomed leaders who want to work with the United Democratic Alliance to transform Kenya. He said he will join forces with all leaders who believe in the uplifting of millions of underprivileged Kenyans. Ruto explained that the country was facing massive economic pressure that called on leaders to pull together to tame the rising cost of living. And Wiper Democratic Movement leader Kalonzo Musyoka has welcomed Deputy President William Ruto's convoy in Ukambani on his political tours, saying as presidential aspirants, leaders should have all the liberty to tour every region to sell their political agenda to Kenyans. The Wiper leader, however, warned the Deputy President that he will eventually account to Kenyans on how he has managed to amass such monies that he is dishing out to Kenyans, reminding him that every civil servant and state officer's salary and income is known. Kalonzo says it is unfortunate that leaders have used their authority and positions of power to enrich themselves whilst grounding government parastatals like Kenya Power, hence forcing Kenyans to endure a high cost of electricity. And the Ministry of Health has announced 20 new COVID-19 infections from a sample size of 3,444 tested in the last 24 hours. The new infections, according to the Health Ministry, recorded a positivity rate of 0.6% and now push the tally of positive cases confirmed so far to 253,833. From the cases, 19 are Kenyans and 1 foreigner, 13 males and 7 are females. And the US is opening its borders today to double-jabbed foreign visitors, ending a 20-month entry ban. The ban was imposed by former President Donald Trump due to COVID-19. It has affected 9 US citizens from over 30 countries, including the UK and the EU states, separating families and stalling tourism. Airlines are expected a flood of visitors as the restrictions are lifted for those who are fully vaccinated and undergo testing and contact tracing. To sports, and Olympic champion Paris Chepchirchir won the 50th running of the New York City Marathon yesterday in 2 hours, 22 minutes and 39 seconds, surviving a thrilling three-way battle before sprinting for the finish line, and fellow Kenyan Albert Korir won the men's race in 2 hours, 8 minutes and 22 seconds. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
On Mombasa Road this morning, at that Maradaima stretch in and outbound is where we're seeing traffic right now. North Airport Road, then feeding off onto Outer Ring today, going into the eastern part of the city. It's piling up quite some. Outer Ring will take you all the way through and through, coming off onto Thika Road this morning. Speaking of which, that's where traffic has built up quite some as well. To survey, though, just passing the drive-in, a little bit of traffic there, but it's moving along slowly. Kiambu Road also moving bumper to bumper in some parts, and that's inbound to the city. Coming out of Westlands, also piled up quite some as you get then out towards the roundabout and then out towards Chiromo. That continues to be an issue this morning. Gara and that whole area is a mishmash of traffic. Langata Road, bumper to bumper heading out towards Wilson Airport. And then this is all taking traffic coming off of Uhuru Highway going into South Sea. So there's a party and it's not a good one in terms of traffic. We'll keep an eye on things this morning. Help us out. Jogo Road also moving along slowly. Not too bad. Moving. So it's good when things are moving. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's do what? Let's keep it moving.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7, good morning. It's the 8th day of November 2021. Wherever you're tuned in, a very good morning to you. Well, happy Monday to you. CT has the day's proverb.
Esuj, erashe, ngenjuk, emusana. A new idea follows an old one.
What language was that?
That is Kimasai.
Kimasai. Okay, say it again. Pole.
Esuj, erashe, ngenjuk, emusana.
A new idea follows an old one. Fresh idea follows an old one. Kweli kabisa. True. That's very, very true. Very true. Higher. What was it that TJ Apache was saying earlier today?
Many things, but let's start from some of the things that he mentioned.
Yes.
Who is our education CS? He has answered, Magoha. My message, amalize aende nyumbani. We can't entertain school burning in Kenya. My suggestion, close boarding schools. Let us go back to day schools. He then went on to say, let's talk about the school burning, discipline in schools, and the parent-teacher relationships. We are going and asking the wrong questions. The question is, a rogue student summons a headmaster to let them go home? This is one of the questions coming up now. But the issue, close boarding schools, let's go back to day schools. The indiscipline and then the activities thereafter are detrimental to society.
Just this term alone, more than 30 dormitories and other buildings, including labs, have been torched. The principals are heaping blame on unruly students. There are people who have also heaped blame on the media. Others have heaped blame on everything else. What's happening? Some of the latest flare-ups have occurred in the coast and western Kenya. In Kilifi, detectives are investigating the destruction of property in 11 schools. In western Kenya, Kakamega High School, one of the best academic institutions in the country, has been indefinitely closed following the burning of 2 dormitories. And this is after the Education Ministry has already said, you know what, headmasters, you're saying that the students need to go home, fine. Let there be half term. Even after the announcement by the Education Ministry, we have seen that. Just now, Aseto has just read for us the news and he's saying what happening? Maranda High School issues. Now, surely. See, you've already been told if you wanted to go home, it's okay, you can go home. What, again, is the issue? What is keeping this school unrest going? What's fueling it? Even after all these things. Now, TJ Apache and others have said, if you look at all these things, they're happening in boarding schools. The question about boarding schools and whether they're still relevant to this date is actually a debate that started some time back. I remember Wilson Sosion, we even spoke to him on this show when he was Secretary General of KNUT, and he was saying, boarding schools are outdated. We're in a new era. We don't need boarding schools. Maybe we should come back to that conversation again.
I have to ask.
Are boarding schools a problem?
I have to ask. Boarding schools in Kenya, those who take issue with them or those who don't, what happens in boarding schools at the moment across board that would bring about these tension situations which we're clearly seeing are an issue? Because like you said, we're not seeing day schools burning down. We're not seeing this tension happening, or at least not being overtly expressed. the way they are being expressed coming out of boarding schools. So I really want to know what happens in schools. Is it teacher misconduct, maltreatment by teachers? Is it that amenities are not adequately provided? Is it that the needs are not being met? Is it too much workload? What happens? Because this is not a conversation that started today. It did not start this year. It did not even start with COVID. It has always been an issue. The first famous burning of schools was 10 years ago plus, right? And it has continued to be an issue. What's the problem? Or is it a combination of several factors? Are they mistreated in schools? Are the living accommodation conditions in boarding schools not up to scratch? Are they not well fed? Is there teacher or guardian misconduct? What is it?
One thing that you can say about boarding schools is that the student population is there. They form a family, all right? You're there for how many weeks a term? Together from morning till morning. You're spending time in class together. You're spending time at games time together. You're spending time in the dormitories. You have shared chores that you are doing. So you become, there's more of a community that's built around boarding schools. Now, is that a problem? I don't see what the problem is. Because boarding schools have been there in this country for the longest time, as City would say. Now, and it's not all boarding schools that end up with issues. You'll find that there'll be a flare-up of issues in a certain boarding school and not in others. There are those that are notorious. Today, people will call in and tell you of notorious schools that were known. I mean, this school, the boys or the girls in that school were known that you join that community, you will behave a certain way. And then there are others which are not expected to behave in a certain way. I don't think the issue really is boarding schools.
Okay.
The issue is elsewhere.
Boarding schools, if you look at it strictly, they afford an opportunity that parents bring up their children not only to anticipate, but to prepare them for. That so-called independence. Away from that parental guidance and care and oversight. And an opportunity for them to intermingle with their contemporaries and their peers and to develop the self, as we call it. You see, if you understand why it is that from the very, very onset, that understanding was there, you would realize that it didn't begin with this formal setting of education. In a traditional African setting, it was very normal for parents to send their children to other relatives who lived far away.
Yes.
And it wasn't that they were not able to teach, to look after their children. No. It was so that the children may learn certain things or may understand certain things. So essentially, you could argue that you were sent to a boarding institution because the understanding that somebody needs to do things which are different from what they do within the homestead within which they were born, that understanding has always been there. Now, with formal education, it is understood that a child who's in a boarding school tends to have more time to focus on the education than one who isn't.
Yes.
Primarily.
Yes. Because you're not spending time traveling from point A to point B.
No, you're not.
And then you're also dealing with the distractions. Exactly.
None of those things exist.
You're not distracted by things, whether it be play or work at home that your parents or others would ask you to do.
Yes.
So that you're able to focus completely on your schooling. Do you know what I think? I think that whereby one school that may have set the example, right, may have had an issue. And this issue had not been resolved, whether it was that they didn't want to attend exams or whether this and this, the dining hall was not up to scratch, whatever it was, is that they chose this method to send a message. And essentially, the mode of sending of a message spread like wildfire, no pun intended. But that's what it did. That folks said, hold on a minute, these guys burnt down their school and people sat up and listened. So this is what we are going to then do to get some attention. And I don't think we can run away from the fact that if you dig a little deeper, the actual reason why some of these other schools are going up in flames is something minute.
Yep.
Something that if communication was used as a way to solving this problem, it would have been sorted out. I'm going to look at it as there is something on the side of the students. It could even be one student who then talked to his or her peers and they decided to take this action of something that they didn't like. There is not proper communication then between teachers and students. There is not proper communication between the administration and students. Or that there's something teachers want and are using children as the conduits to spread their own message. But there is something that is not being discussed face to face. And the only way to get attention is to literally put the school up in flames. And this message then spreads to other people that, you know what, you want to get your issue addressed, you want somebody to listen to you, you want things to change, get the attention by setting the school alight. And is that not what we see? That we too, because like you said, if the issues that we wanted to go home, okay, you've been given an opportunity to go home, but we still see these things happening. There are issues, and I don't think we can give it blanket and say children are burning school across the country because
half-term.
Of half-term. No, I think that every school, every time you've seen this happen, that there is a reason. Now, call it substantial or not, but there is a reason. And I'm chalking it down to communication. That there's something that has gone amiss. Is there a better way of discussing? Is there a better way of trying to figure it out? And clearly those ways have not been exhausted. And so in order for me to get your attention, I'm going to destroy it.
You know, the problem about that, if there is unrest or if there's disquiet, what we are seeing is a provision and opportunity for the criminal elements within the school.
Exactly.
Because those who want to burn things down, it's not everybody wants to burn things down. Not really. You know, there's a place at Kenyatta University, it's called Bishop Square. Most people don't even know why it's called Bishop Square. But in the late 20th century, yes, somewhere around 1980, there was a gentleman by the name of Bishop Ndu Okoh. Bishop Ndu Okoh had a wife in college. At the time I was there. We didn't know that this lady was married to the bishop. We did not know. Because she had a boyfriend in college whom we knew.
Oh, okay.
One day, unbeknown to the bishop, who came to that particular place with one James Orengo, the bishop was then, I think, minister for some part of Ugenya. He was an MP. And there are those who said he was an in-law of James Orengo's. The college had just had an election that day. So temperatures are a bit higher. It transpires that the gentleman came to look for his wife, found the wife in the room of the boyfriend. They were studying. The bodyguard decided to get rough with the young gentleman, and the young gentleman shouted, "Comrades, I'm being killed." On the day of an election, comrades came. This election tended, I don't know how it is the time, but they took place when people were broke. So people hadn't gone anywhere. They'd had their supper and they were just sort of like hanging out. So people rushed. The bishop ran out. The honorable MP ran out. The bodyguard ran out. Now, they started running in the direction of Langata, of the barracks, Kenyatta barracks. But the Kenyatta University was part of the barracks at some point. And they ran. And students chased after them. I know all this because somebody came to my room and said, you know, some people want to burn a car. So I got out, and there was one particular gentleman. He was a small frame gentleman. We used to call him Onyango Raga. You wouldn't call him violent at all. He was actually just funny, noisy. But he's the one who came up with the idea and said, you know, this car, it was a Celeste, beautiful sports car. Those gentlemen ran and got away. They went to the barracks. Nothing happened to them. Said, why don't we burn this car? Someone said, no, let's not burn it. Two individuals said, let's overturn it. They overturned it. Now, when they overturned it, some fuel spilled out. I don't know where the match came from. I don't know. But somebody threw it and the car was ablaze. It later transpired that there was some money which was burnt in this car. Of course, people were looking for, why did you burn the money? Now, nobody knew. But because it was the bishop's car, it was called the Bishop Square because it was just the square in front of the dining hall. Now, why am I telling you this story? The vast majority of the people in that crowd had no intention whatsoever
of torching the car.
Or interest.
None
Or
whatsoever.
interest. Or
None.
interest,
they
right?
didn't. They didn't. You could count the 3 criminal elements who are responsible for that.
Onyangaraga.
He was just making noise.
Yeah.
But the person who actually touched it, 2 other guys, I can't remember who overturned the car.
Yeah.
These guys must have been strong. They overturned the car. That car burnt to a shell. That's when I also realized that the bulk of what we have as cars are plastic.
Paper.
Burnt. Shell. Now, if you look at each and every case from 2008 when we had cases of schools burning, prior to that, students would go on riot and maybe the torching, it's 2008 that we started seeing this torching as a norm. It is never an entire school. It is never an entire class. You can count the people involved in one hand or another.
And if you find out if you were to interrogate, and that's what I'm telling you guys, if you were to interrogate the reason, the original reason behind this scuffle, that then eventually leads to, and it's not that on the day of the fire is not necessarily the day when the issue happened, right? Or whatever it was. If you were able to actually interrogate and find out the reasons as to why these things are happening, in many cases, you'd be able to find that it is a minute detail that just needed a little bit of sorting out here and there.
You know what is actually strange? That car could have been burnt earlier. I had a roommate in college, he was called Andrew Mato, smallish guy. He wasn't big framed. But then we halted the whole group, told him, you're not going to burn this car. What's the matter with you people? What is this? So he stopped. So now, when he and I moved away in the periphery, that's when these other shenanigans I was telling you came about. But what am I saying? Part of the problem is there isn't a strong enough opposition to this mayhem. People are not willing to stand up and say, excuse me.
Stop this.
Criminals in any society are known, even in school. The people who are inclined, think back to the days in school. The young children who are given to alcohol, drugs, they were known.
Yeah.
Among the student body, they were known. The ones you could go to if you wanted a cigarette, they were known. The ones in the Christian Union, they were known. The ones who like debate, they were known. Characters are known at an early age. So why is it that you do not hear of cases? And when you do, like in a case where there were some prefects who stood up against the students, they were burnt in their room. 4 prefects.
It is indiscipline that's just on steroids. That's in the country. And I think it's not just in schools. Let's just face it and accept it, that we as a society have gotten to a level of indiscipline where the children are projecting what we do.
They see us on a daily basis.
Yeah. Look, there are several things that you've said. There are crooked elements, some delinquents in school. They are known.
Yes.
There's some disquiet. In every community, there's always going to be some friction here and there. How you sort it, how you discuss it, how you raise the issue. Now, if we have developed a system where there's a way of communicating issues and then those issues are addressed, that's one. If you've developed a system where the first thing that you think of is, instead of raising an issue and saying, I have this issue, you want to raise an issue by being violent and being very loud about it, that's a different thing. Because I may have a system in place that says you can walk into the headmaster's office, or you can do this and the other, you can talk to the discipline master, you can talk to, all those teachers in school. But if, as a society, the way I believe that things should be done is, I don't like something, I start shouting, hapana bana, no, hapana bwana, hii mambo hatutaki. If that is how we are, normalizing things, communication, then this is going to happen. I think I will bring it down to this, some serious indiscipline in schools, which is a reflection of some serious indiscipline in the society in Kenya.
But I think we also cannot run away from what is happening or what happens even look at the age that we are talking about. Look at the age of learners in high school, right? We're looking at 15 till 18, 14 until 18. That's the time where psychologically, socially, and still even physically, you're being formed.
Yep.
This is the time where it is vital to have as much psychological support as you can have. It's the time where, in terms, you've been formed socially, but here you are still being socialized. It's a time where you have a lot of things like peer pressure rearing its head, etc., etc. Now, look at indeed what's happening in the country right now with mental health. And I'm just going to graduate that. Look at what is happening with mental health. That folks don't have an outlet for a lot of the things that they're going through. Folks don't have people to talk to. What have we seen in the last 1 year? What is the outlet that people are using for the personal turmoil that they're going through? Violence. Is it not? People don't have someone to talk to. The economic hardships that they're going through, there is no outlet for this to go through. Look at it now when you're looking at an age where somebody is just forming in terms of their life. And it could be a very small thing, and somebody does not have an outlet, and they're already choosing violence. As in, that is your option. Something may not be going quite right here. I may not have somebody to talk to, because in as much as we say that there are channels for some of these things in schools, are we interrogating just how seamless those channels are? That are you sure, for sure, that you can go to the person who is your guidance counselor or whatever it is in school and have these issues sorted out? The way we say that you know who the troublemakers are in school, who's handling them? The way you say that, you know, if something had gone wrong in school, you're almost sure it could have been this boy and this group, or this girl and her group. You're almost sure who it could be. Who's handling mental health issues in schools? Really? The people that you look at today, who you say that there's something here that this person was slightly off their rocker, can be traced back to when they were much younger.
It's easy to do so, but remember, many schools have what they call a guidance counseling teacher.
Yes.
But this teacher has a full schedule of other subjects that they teach.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like this counseling is in your spare time. Actually, for it to work, you actually need a person whose job is only that.
Yeah.
The school that I went to, this was her job. I won't forget, Miss Sherry Woods. That was her job. Morning till evening, you had an opportunity where you could actually be in her office. This was all she did. She did not teach anything else. She did not have any other role. That was it. So now you want to ask yourself, even this person that you say is going to come in, this person is teaching another subject.
You know, it's not the first time. Look. I hear everything that you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense, okay? Textbook. Practically, it's not the first time that people have issues in schools, and people have gone to either the guidance and counseling teacher or the school chaplain or a teacher that they like. You may find that somebody actually feels more comfortable talking to their biology teacher or their chemistry teacher or their arts and craft, whatever, and they go and they talk to this teacher. But what are those issues that would be in a school that would be raising temperatures to this level? We're not even seeing them. If there were issues that would be raising temperatures to this level, we'd be hearing about them.
I refuse to believe that folks are just... I refuse to believe that they're just burning down schools because it's a fun activity.
It's not a fun activity. It is indiscipline.
There is something wrong.
It's indiscipline at the highest order. The issues that we're talking about are not issues that would be major. That's why we're not hearing issues being major. When we're hearing about half-term, it's school heads who are telling us. Maybe that's what they've been told by the students. We want to go home.
Or the teachers.
That's what we are feeling. That's the vibe that we are picking when you're trying to teach the students. We're just feeling the vibe that they want to go home. So we raise it. But everything else, the students who walked 40 kilometers because they were feeling milk, that's a specific issue. There's an issue about our diet. You'll hear it. There's an issue about whether we are, being beaten by the teachers are being too harsh. You'll hear it. There's an issue about, you will hear those issues. Here, Kakamega, you hear. Buruburu, you hear. Maranda, you don't hear exactly what. It's a thing of, you've got to understand something that we've said. Yes, these young people are at that age where they have a lot of energy and they're trying to channel the energy. Number one. So something small could spark something. There's something, the water was too cold this morning. It's not because the administration had added, ice to the water. It's just some frustration. Water was too, whatever. But then, have you been brought up in a way that you know how to express yourself? When you are at home and you're feeling, you've woken up and you're in a foul mood, how do you behave? If you wake up and you're in a foul mood and how you behave is you throw a tantrum in the house, that's how you know. You throw a tantrum. go to school, throw tantrums. How are kids behaving when they're at home? We see these videos and we laugh. You know these videos that, in fact, there's some Nigerian comedian who's recording kids in the 80s. Go and bring me a remote. Okay, daddy, go and bring the remote. Kids in the 90s, go and bring me a remote. Where is the remote now, daddy? Go and bring the remote. Kids in the current generation, go and bring me a remote. Why you going to go and bring the remote yourself? And then they bangs the door as they walk. We laugh about it. It's a reality. So these kids, you want to express yourself, you express yourself. You know, be expressive, my child. This is being expressive.
I don't think
it's indiscipline.
I don't think that every situation that we've seen will be chalked up to indiscipline. I don't think that everyone that you see...
When it ends up with our dormitory being torched, I'm chalking it up straight.
I don't think everything can be pointed to indiscipline. I think that you will find that there may have been latent issues that have not been dealt with. Now, whether it is issues on the student side, whether it is issues dealing with those who are in authority over them, I don't think that you'll be able to point it in as much as you have cases whereby somebody just wants to be a fool. Then that is very different. But I think you will find that there are others where there will be issues, genuine issues that have not been handled. And we run the risk of dealing with those issues properly by putting this blanket and saying everybody are all in discipline, and that's why we have schools.
A vast majority, I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying a vast majority of these cases that we are seeing, 30 schools being torched, it's some degree of indiscipline. Indiscipline does not mean that you don't have an issue that you're raising. It does mean that you may have an issue that you're raising, but how you're addressing it. You're addressing it because you feel that you're entitled, and you lack the discipline.
We do not know what channels for address.
Those channels have been there.
And we don't know if they're properly utilized. We do not know.
You see, that is the issue here.
We don't know.
We are not behaving as if this is a new school system that has been set up. What is there today, presently,
it doesn't mean because it has been there for 100 years that it is watertight and
it is what was there last year.
It doesn't mean it's working.
They didn't touch the school last year.
Maybe
they didn't touch the school last year.
Until this year.
Oh,
you
so
never know.
Indiscipline.
You never know.
Indiscipline. That's where it comes
Channels have not
in.
been properly.
What channels are these?
Do you know? You do not know the.
I know that there are channels in schools.
We do not know if they've been properly utilized, and that
we
is my
know
point.
that
we do not know. We don't know.
If they are not being properly utilized, you'd be hearing it from the students.
Are you hearing what every reason is today? Are you hearing every reason as to why this school was burned down today? Are you hearing the reason? You yourself said just now, we don't know why Miranda.
And I have always told you, Ndu,
why
when
we
children do something, you will hear it. You will
so
hear
why haven't we heard the reason?
If you
now?
don't hear it, it is indiscipline. 26 minutes to 8. Let's open up the phone line. 0719-012-600. What do you think? What's happening in our schools? Is boarding the problem?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Follow your dreams to the land of the rising sun with a host of academic opportunities to pursue your undergraduate and postgraduate studies in Japan's leading universities. Visit www.studyinjapan-africa.com to find out how you can enroll to the program.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Have you seen my life?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
you.
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is
Sunny
The
conditions
weather
in
with
Nairobi at 16, highs of 27 and lows of 15. It's sunny at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 14. 14 and sunny in Nyeri, highs of 26 and lows of 12. Eldoret is sunny as well at 15, highs of 25 and lows of 13. Sunny conditions as well in Mombasa at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 24. And it's cloudy in some parts of Malindi, but sun will come out at 28, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Kisumu is sunny at 20, highs of 31 and lows of 19. And Kakamega, cloudy conditions at 18, highs of 30 and lows of 16. Cloudy conditions in some parts of Kampala, 21 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 19. And it's partly sunny at 25 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 31 and lows of 23. Johannesburg is sunny at 15, highs of 22 and lows of 10, while Lagos is mostly clear at 23. We'll see highs of 32. It's clear in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 33 and lows of 23. All right, we are in traffic hour now. It's what it looks like coming off of the Thika Superhighway, getting into the city this morning. Quite some traffic, and that is going way ahead, or rather way behind, well into Outer Ring today. Also looking at Kiambu Road, quite packed today, coming out of Muthui as well. All right, coming out of Parklands, Limuru Road, absolutely packed all the way from Village Market out past, then through and through, bumper to bumper situations in some parts as you lead out towards Ngara. Coming out of Westlands, that whole Lavington, Kileleshwa State House area, coming through to Chiromo, very, very slow this Monday morning. Everybody's up and out and about. Industrial area, that whole circuit, Lunga Lunga, Lusaka, Likoni, out onto the interchange on Mombasa Road today. The Southern Bypass, however, is free and clear. Langata Road, totally different story. Bagadi Way also picking up a little bit as you're trying to get towards Ngong Road. Okay, so a few minutes after 7:30, this is what it looks like. Keep an eye on things this morning. Help us out here, guys. Are you running into something we should know about? Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
20 minutes to 8. This is
94.4 Spice FM.
We are asking ourselves, so what's the issue here with the ongoing school unrest? Last week, the School Heads Association had said, you know what we are getting from the students here is that they need some space to breathe. Let's give them some time to take some time off, go on midterm and come back. The Ministry of Education said, all right, let's actually declare some half-term. What was not previously there. Still, even after that, we have seen students torching their dormitories and other facilities in the school. There's ongoing school unrest. Over the weekend, Kakamega High School. This morning in the news, it's about Miranda High and others that have continued to do this. What's happening? Is boarding school the problem? Is a breakdown of communication the problem? Is breakdown of channels that have been established in schools to address student issues and concerns a problem? Where is the problem? I'm saying indiscipline is also a contributing factor. Let's go to the phone lines. 0719 012 600. Juma in Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Eric, I totally agree with you. It's in this film.
Mm-hmm.
It's in this film. I'm in my mid-40s.
Okay.
And if I remember the kind of children we were in school those days, even as I speak to you today, if I meet my teacher, I will stand up and bless him.
Mm.
There was nothing like children rights. This nonsense you're hearing on the news, that children rights, children should be allowed to do this, to do that, is what has contributed to the history experiencing today.
Mm.
So a child who is still living under the roof of his or her father has no any right apart from listening to the counsel and the instruction he or she is received from the parents. And we parents, we know we are acting on the interest of our children. So these things, this issue of rights, we can do this, do that, as a contribute to our kids getting messy.
Thank you, Juma. Thank you for your
So
call.
corporal punishment should be reintroduced back into our schools.
Okay. Audrey in Kinoa, good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
Morning, Ndu. Morning, City.
Good morning, Audrey.
I would like to strongly disagree with Juma. Well, he says that because of the time he was in school, things were happening in a certain way. I get that there is the issue of indiscipline. And indiscipline doesn't just start in the schools, they start from home. It starts from home. Yes, that I agree with. But just because in the 90s and in the 80s something worked, doesn't mean it will work for this generation.
Okay.
Yes. So first of all, we need to find out what works for this current generation. I will give you an example of the time when I was in school. And with this, I'm going to agree with Ndu that there's a disconnect in communication. When I go to high school, we used to have barazas every Friday. This was meant to address whatever issues we were facing, from academic to outside academic. Every single issue we were facing, we would have the chance to address it every Friday evening. Now, as the years went by, the number of barazas we had in a term slowly reduced. By the time we were getting to Form 4, we would have very few barazas a term. Now, what this brought up is a lot of build-up of bitterness. Well, we didn't burn the school. We never did. No class has ever burned down school. But it brought up a lot of issues because the issues the students were facing were no longer being addressed.
Right.
Yes. And because of that, there was a lot of build-up of tension, bitterness, being disgruntled. Yes. And for me, I would say that is what brings up the problem.
And can I ask you, Audrey, when you had these barazas that were initially set up to address some of these issues, did you see this kind of tension build up when the barazas were being used in the manner in which they were originally set up to do?
Honestly, no. At that time when we were having barazas, of course, there were a few issues here and there. There were a few people who were disgruntled, but mostly there were no mass disgruntlement. Yes, because the issues were being addressed every Friday.
Right.
So we would have an avenue to express ourselves. Yes.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you too. Have a lovely day, guys.
You too. Mohammed in Mombasa, good morning. And I see Mwalimu Erongo is on the line as well. Mohammed, good morning.
Morning. So I think there is a disconnect between what the two previous callers have said, and I just want to bring that together in what I'm about to. So whilst I agree but disagree about too much in children's rights, I think that children need to be protected in a way. But also, we're living in an age where information is available, free, and the kids of today have access to a lot more information. They're trained, they're brought up in a different way, so that they're exposed to their rights and they know what the future holds. A 13-year-old or 10-year-old, even my 10-year-old son today, is talking to me about whatever he learns in school when they talk about the society. I forget what's it called. It leaves my mind, but when you have a class rep, student rep, a student council, that's the one. At 10 years old, they canvass for student council. So of course they understand democracy and the ways of the world much earlier than when we ever did. Now when you give them also children's rights, you go to the UK, for instance, and if you touch even layer, a friendly hand on your child, they call social services and the police around your house in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Of course, the parents are going to be... so the world has kind of recorrected what was before domestic corporal punishment to becoming over-lenient. And I think a fair balance now needs to be kind of struck between what is allowed and what is not allowed, given that the consequences of being too lenient, we are seeing the fruits of. So I think that conversation needs to be rebalanced in a way.
So by rebalancing it, do we mean that we reintroduce corporal punishment, or to what degree?
Well, that will be after you have that debate. Is when you come to that. My faith doesn't allow me to hit children, for instance. So from a faith-based perspective, I wouldn't introduce that. But once that debate is opened up, that is when people will realize that we need a different type of domestic upbringing. So a little bit of what the previous caller said, which then marries into the whole social fabric and what have you. How that ends up, I can't give you a solution because it's quite an involved debate. Does children's discipline, does children's quality of upbringing, is that the responsibility of the teacher or the parents or both?
Yeah.
It's a much wider debate.
Okay.
And this is the result of it. You have far more single-parent families, for instance. Therefore, the negative side of that, the Western outside influence, which not always is good, is far more prevalent than it was when we grew up, where values and morals were much more prized. What do you say? A characteristic of a human than it is today. Today, it's all about money.
Thank you. Thank you for your call, Mohammed.
Thanks.
Lovely day. Mwalimu Irongo.
Yes, good morning, guys.
Good morning, Mwalimu.
In the year around 2005, I remember we had this spate of schools burning all over the country.
Yep.
It's not that the AFTAMs were not there, they were there.
Yeah.
So declaring AFTAM so that students can stop burning schools is misplaced, and I think it is a way of bending too low. Telling students that now you see, tell us what you want. Unataka mukate ama turudishe mukate tuleta chapati. So these so-called rights, I'm not against child rights because we have also seen people violating those rights. But I think in a way the state and the parents, the teachers need to have some degree of firmness.
Yeah.
Firmness that this is what's supposed to be done. If it's not supposed to be done, if you do this, you are going to get punished.
Are you saying you don't have that?
That doesn't exist in schools right now?
We don't.
Oh.
Why?
Okay.
If I qualify the saying that we do, it is to a very small extent because these students know that they are not supposed to be caned, for example.
Yeah.
And so in the absence of caning, there is nothing much you can do apart from sending them home. You send them home, they go to the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education will come a whole track of officers to come and find out why that this student is not in school and so on and so forth. Now, allow me to make these observations. Number one, I don't agree to the fact that to the introduction of corporal punishment now. According to me, somehow it's too late. But there is a very serious rise in indiscipline, and if we've come to a situation where we are no longer containing those who are burning schools, I think parents should not be made to pay.
Okay.
Wacha watoto hawa wakamatwe, wapelekwe kotini, wafungwe. Wakifungwa miezi 6, 7, 8, about a year, this nonsense of your fire starting in one school B wanasikia pia nao wanasema si hata sisi tunaweza kuchoma tupate ruhusa tuende wazazi walipe. This nonsense will come to an end.
So a deterrence is
yes,
arrest the perpetrators and jail them.
Yes, do you see Eric, why I'm saying that? When I was in school, I remember I was one of those people who hardly spoke, and I want to praise myself because I never imagined that I was supposed to mess around. Fortunately, nothing of the sort happened, but you see, when you bundle everybody together and tell the whole school now, let 1,500 shillings,
yeah,
then the perpetrators have their way.
You punish everybody.
Yes. Finally, please allow me to also say this. Teachers. I taught in one school, a mixed school, where students were coming up with issues and they were being sat on. So when I began to listen, I realized that male teachers were actually having affairs with female students. And the boys were actually boiling about it, and you can understand why. So I went down, and in one of the staff meetings, the things I told them, please, can you allow me to handle guidance and counseling? So I chose some two ladies, and when we started handling this, these cases came out, and a few of the male teachers had to be transferred by the principal. To some extent, we lowered this. So please allow me to say that teachers also
are contributing.
I've just mentioned one issue amongst others, but there are many other. When they are unable to deliver,
right?
We've seen them trying to play tough so that they cannot pay. So there are very many things. So my position is that that this indiscipline be handled right from home, but at school level, once we find this guy is doing this or that thing,
let the law take its course. Thank you, Mwalimu.
You don't hear this nonsense.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Kennedy, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you today, Kennedy?
I'm doing much more organized.
Yeah.
So I want to make some contribution about the ongoing debate or discussion.
Yes, go ahead.
One, I want to make contribution as a teacher. Two, I also want to make contribution as somebody who went to school when the issue of rights were not as louder as they are today. Mine, I will not point finger either to walimu or to student or to parent, but it's a collective problem. One from parents. I think parents have just ignored their role, their parental role. They have completely ignored. I don't know, because of the hard economic situation. And most of the time, you'll find that our parents are not with their children, so that to advise them, to give them the better direction. Then from students, we have crop of students. And I want to say I'm just mad with the whole education system. There's the students, the crop of the students that we currently have, they don't believe in the hard work. They believe in the smart work, in which the smart work that they believe in is this the Kenya issue. You find that at this moment, if you go to a class, the Form 4 will be asking you, Mwalimu, how are things doing? How are things doing? You see that?
And
so this is a mindset that has already been rotten.
By asking how things are doing, the student is basically asking whether you have leakage.
Yeah, will we be able to get something? How is things going outside there?
Okay.
So these are students who believe in more Kenya, and unless the education system come out strongly and we change this conversation, then we'll not have peace with the students. Then the teachers. I think there's pressure from the government or from the stakeholders for the teachers to perform at their best and to speak the truth, when I was young and when I was in school, I wanted seriously to be a teacher. I knew that teaching profession was the best for everybody. But of late, I've realized that it is not one of the best. Because maybe if you look at the economy and what they are being given, the pressure, you have to be in school from Monday to Friday. You don't have some bit of time to do 1, 2. So you'll find that the teachers, they are not well prepared to give their best in classes. Because most of the time they are busy looking for how they can subsidize or spice up whatever they have. So, Eric, I think that's what I would want to say.
Some good points there. Thank you very much, Kennedy.
Thank you.
Asante sana. We just have about a minute to the top of the hour. Let's hear from Timothy, who's been holding on the line. Timothy, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Morning to you.
Let me just quickly run through my thoughts.
Yes.
From my perspective, I mean, I went to boarding school in the late 80s. And going from, high schools were great places to go. I mean, you're coming from home where you probably have no electricity, you have no water, and you're sharing a bed with a sibling, to this place that is great, So I feel the biggest problem that we're having is the boarding school, because Kenyans became slightly richer. However, the boarding schools are deplorable. I mean, if I go to a boarding school, there are very few children in this country who can be able to live in those conditions. Either they scrap them off completely or do something. Because I'm saying, I don't know about your personal experience, but I think when you went to high school, if you went to a boarding school, you loved it. I mean, it was the only place that gave you a platform to have what we would call funkies. I don't know if you remember those. Because at home, those things were not provided. Today, what is the proposition? What is boarding school offering? Just paying.
So there's nothing else that you're getting out of boarding school?
What I mean, today, if I took my son to boarding school, what am I offering him? It's just paying. I mean, he's going to sleep in a triple decker.
Yeah, there's what city called character development.
But I mean, so if people are getting richer, improve the facilities. I mean, it's the job for the government to improve the facilities.
Okay.
I mean, I went to Kenya High. Kenya High was prestigious, back in the day.
Yep.
I had gone there during this COVID period. Guys are sleeping in triple deckers. I mean, even prison guys don't sleep like that.
They've become worse. Thank you very much, Timothy.
Yes. Okay.
Asante sana. Kenya's biggest conversation, it continues. What's the issue with the schools? Is it boarding schools as a problem? Is what Timothy is raising now. I mean, there's now congestion. There's basically a dilapidation of what we call those infrastructure and the facilities that are there in the boarding schools, because we are not seeing the same in day schools. If you're talking about teachers and how teachers are behaving, those are the same kind of teachers who teach in day schools as well. This conversation continues. Just keep it right here. Let's hear the news. Just listen to what has happened to Miranda this morning. Very good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Two students from Purukuru Girls High School are said to be arraigned today over the fire incident at the school that occurred last week, leading to admission of 59 students in hospital. The two are accused of planning and burning one of the cubicles on October 31st before escaping and leaving their colleagues behind. Sources indicate that investigations led to the two, who were allegedly hard planning to burn one of the cubicles, and two were later seen leaving the scene before fire erupted. In the incident, amateur videos captured students jumping from as high as the third floor to escape the inferno. Meanwhile, Special Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha has warned that all students involved in school arson attacks will face the law, adding that parents will shoulder the burden of repairing the destroyed facilities. Now, lawyers are set to hold countrywide peaceful demonstrations on Wednesday to protest the abduction of an advocate who is still missing alongside his client. Lawyer Wilson Nadwa and his client Elgiva Buire were last seen in October and are believed to have been taken away by police. Nadwa is said to have gone to report his client's disappearance when he also went missing. According to the Law Society of Kenya, the demonstration under the Purple Ribbon Campaign Week are meant to speak against enforced disappearances. In a statement, LSK Chief Executive Officer Mercy Wambua said lawyers will live in fear if such enforced disappearances continue. LSK is said to have also organized other activities during the week that are set to continue until Friday. Religious leaders are being asked to step forward and be at the core of the 2022 polls. Deputy President William Ruto urged them to use their networks and expertise with communities to shape the public's voting. He said it was not enough for faith leaders to just pray for the country. He challenged leaders contesting for various positions in the coming elections to rally behind national political parties that will unite Kenya. And Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga has maintained that his promise to give vulnerable families 6,000 shillings monthly stipend is achievable and that he has put in place strategies that will make it a success. He said that the 6,000 monthly stipend is the biggest social welfare program in Africa that will enable vulnerable Kenyans continue with their lives without much struggles. The ODM leader told of critics who have accused him of making unrealistic promises with a view of hoodwinking voters ahead of the 2022 general election, saying that just like the free primary education he pioneered with retired President Mwai Kibaki, the social welfare will be a success story should he be president in 2022. Now, a man believed to be the mastermind of a mega local bank fraud has been nabbed by detectives from his hideout in Mulot, Narok County. According to the DCI, 22-year-old Nelson Kipkemoi is linked to a network of fraudsters who detectives say have been siphoning money from bank accounts in one of the top banks in the country. DCI further states that the swindling has seen the disappearance of over 45 million shillings from 481 customers through mobile banking platforms. Kipkemoi will be arraigned at Milimani Law Courts today. All the bodies of the 4 students who drowned in River Catheta in Tharaka Nithi have been retrieved, bringing to an end the search mission. Police said the drowning incident occurred during a swimming expedition photo session by the students from Tharaka University College. Local administrators and police said the students had gone to swim when the tragedy occurred. Reports indicate that the first student had difficulty coming out of the water as they swam, and that is when 2 others tried to rescue him, but they too drowned. A witness said the 4th one also drowned when he jumped in to try rescue the 3. Bodies of the 4 students are being preserved at the Marimanti Hospital mortuary, awaiting an autopsy and formal identification. Across the borders, and the United States government has issued a bounty of up to $6 million for information on the whereabouts of 4 key leaders of the Somalia-based terrorist group Al-Shabaab. The reward notice was issued under the State Department Rewards for Justice program in a bid to disrupt and weaken the leadership chain of the Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group, which has staged major attacks in East African countries, including Kenya. The State Department issued a $6 million reward for Abu Ubaida Direye, who is categorized as the organization's leader, followed by a $5 million reward for both Mahad Karate, the Amniyat commander, and Fuad Mohammed Khalaf, the financial facilitator of the group. Amniyat is a highly secretive Al-Shabaab's intelligence and counterintelligence wing tasked with gathering information on potential targets and, in some instances, carry out assassinations and bombings. To sports, and FKF Premier League clash between Kakamega Homeboys and Bandari FC ended in chaotic fashion after a mass brawl broke out when the final whistle went. The visiting Bandari players hustled the referee, incensed by his decision to award the home side a late penalty, and were themselves subject of retaliatory attacks from the Homeboys fans. The match ended in a 1-1 draw with goals from Benjamin Mosha and Brian Eshihanda cancelling out. What would have been a match-winning penalty was saved by goalkeeper Michael Wanyeka. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Where are we? We're right in the middle of traffic hour this Monday morning, and it looks like everywhere you look, you will find a spot of traffic. Had you not planned earlier, then you might be stuck in what is Mombasa Road, and that's inbound from Imara Daima. That continues to be a little bit crazy. Uhuru Highway all the way through to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, and then out towards Haile Selassie Avenue today, moving very, very slowly. We did inside traffic as we did see. I'm like this. Okay, so Langata Road also is quite packed as you're getting towards the Bagathi Way Junction. Whether you're going then towards Langata Road proper or then you're going out towards Bagathi Way, that you will, what? You will be stuck. Industrial area also, we're looking at the Thika Superhighway, is a mess today. Now, the Eastern Bypass, usually your go-to road if you're trying to get away from Mombasa Road, forget it. Today, that one just decided she's waking up this morning and nobody is getting out without more than a scratch. So, that is a mess. We're looking at Limuru Road, also quite packed. That whole Muthui area, for some reason today, is crazy. I don't know why, but it's madness. And this is where we are right now. Everywhere you look, a spot of traffic. Let's try and get out without too much of an issue, shall we? Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 8 minutes after 8 on the 8th day of November 2021. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Happy Monday from wherever you're tuned in, around the country, around the world. We have people tuned in from India. We have people in the Philippines, in South Africa, in Ethiopia, in Somalia, in Sudan, all over the world. Thank you very much for choosing Kenya's biggest conversation as the way to start your day. C.T. Muga has the day's Maasai proverb.
Esuj, erashe, ngejuk, emu sana. A new idea follows an old one.
A new idea follows an old one. An interesting Maasai proverb, this one. Interesting Maasai proverb. That's a very good one. In the previous hour, we were talking about what's happening in the schools. School unrest continuing. In the news, we've just heard that some students from Buruburu Girls are due to be arraigned in court and basically to face their actions for what happened in the torching of the school. It's also happening in other parts of the country. Over the weekend, we still see schools being torched, and the question is, so even despite the Ministry of Education coming out and saying, all right, so we understand that there's a lot of pressure on the students, let's give them time to go home for midterm, there is still unrest in schools. What's causing this? There have been very many concerns. One, is it about boardings? That boarding schools are now basically outdated, and now the kind of facilities that we have in boarding are just not conducive for a learning environment. So they are adding to this. What is it that is causing school unrest? I want to continue this conversation. And what needs to be done to address this school unrest? Very many things that are taking place. 0719-012-600 is the number to call as we continue with the conversation this morning. Robert Kipkemboi was on the line before we took the news. Let's hear from him. Robert, good morning.
Hey, good morning too.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Nandi tuko vizuri.
All right.
Yes, I hope you're also good there.
We are all fine.
So I think to me, this is blackmail. And I've never given into blackmail in my life. Never.
Who's blackmailing the other?
Simple. These kids, let me give you an example. The same kids who are clearing Form 4. What end 2 or 3 years, they're either joining Kenya Army, they're either joining Kenya Police. In fact, the best example is they are joining NY. I'm really wondering, why would it be that while they're in secondary school, they can ban anything, demanding what they want, yet when they join this other side, umaisikia maandamano Kenya police when they're in college? Have you ever had NYS guys going for maybe burning their dormitories because they want to demand something? This is pure blackmail.
So who are the students blackmailing?
Simple. These are things that we are giving it. We are opening a big Pandora box, because here is a case we are setting a very bad precedent, because these are kids below 18, and at 18 is when you are being given the freedom to think for yourself partially. That is why they are setting it at the age of 18. So this kid is now saying, if you are not having half term, tutachoma shule. And we've given in. So why is it? The next one would be, if they don't want another principal there, they would say, tunachoma shule. And that principal is transferred. What would it prevent? What would prevent those kids from saying, now we don't want this subject? Kama siya hivyo, tunachoma shule. No. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah. Let's just be simple and say that our total before they are 18, they are under the care of the parents and who? The teachers.
Okay.
Let them be guided accordingly. Lakini yao ya moto hii itatuletea shida.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
Boniface in Mombasa. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, Boniface.
Yes, I want to give my contribution. Yeah, now, the question that we need to ask ourselves, because fire, school burning and all that has been there from time immemorial.
Yep.
Even during your time, Eric, I think there were the same scenarios.
Yes, and even before in
now,
CT's time.
Yeah, and even in CT's time, yeah. Now the question is, why at this time and why at this rate? That is what we need to ask ourselves. Because I remember the first fire that was reported was in a school where the students were actually denied an opportunity to watch, the game between Manchester United and some other team.
Yeah.
So that is when it started. And to me, I feel that there is this kind of peer pressure. Now, if Miranda can do it, what about the other school? These other small schools? And I think they communicate these students. And for them to do this, in some other school, you'll even find that they don't have even proper reason as to why they can touch the school. But now that people are doing it, and these are their colleagues, they are going to meet maybe when the schools are closed. What are they going to share? If you are doing it, why not us?
Why not?
Right. If it's getting some attention somewhere, that's when you see other people use it as a mode of attention seeking.
Yeah.
If we did it in our school and they shut down the school, they're hearing us, right?
Yes, exactly. And again, there is a clear disconnect between the teachers and students. Because actually planning and banning, it is not just a matter of minute. And also, I believe not all the students are for the banning of the school. Yeah, within the student, I think there must be some, how do you call them, the CIDs of the school, which must have informed the school administration and all that. So when there is a disconnect, anything can happen without even the school management knowing. Thank you. That is my contribution.
Thank you very much, Boniface.
Thank you.
Hussein in Nairobi.
Yes, Eric. Morning, guys.
Good morning, Hussein.
Morning. Actually, I remember during those days in Ukambani area, we actually were involved in this school burning waves. And we were generous enough actually to burn our field. Well, our colleagues burned their dormitory.
Wait, say that again. You were involved. You were involved in the skirmish.
Actually,
but you torched your field.
Yes, we torched our field. I don't want Magoha to come and ask me to pay a field. But to be honest, the pressure was too much. And it is not the pressure that the students are going through right now. Yeah, you can imagine the way the year has been tough post-COVID. there is so much to do, especially preparing for mock examinations. I think some of the schools that were burnt during my era was because of fear of examinations. Guys had not revised for the examinations. So that actually precipitated the kind of wave of school burning that happened actually during my time. But this is actually, it borders on indiscipline. And yes, the parents are still going to pay. Yeah. The parents are still going to pay for the damage, and the students are going to go back to school when the normal terms resumes. Yeah, but I can be very honest with you, it's all about indiscipline. Yeah.
Yes.
There's nothing much that can be done. The parents have to take responsibility, and the schools have to be reopened, and life goes back to normal.
Or so we think.
Yes, surely.
So
because,
and in your opinion, what is this normal that they are going back to?
What is normal?
The normal terms.
A lull before the next wave.
Yes,
of
because
burning.
I think it has been a tough year. The students have followed the peer pressure, as my colleague has just said right now, and the challenge is actually on the Ministry of Education in actually easing the life of the students in school. Let me be very honest with you, it's tough.
Hussein, if I may ask you, one of the things you said earlier was that you felt a lot of pressure in school at that time.
Yes. Actually, post Changuli.
You right. Explain that pressure. What are we talking about? Are we talking about a daily, every day you feel like you're heavy? What is this pressure that we are feeling?
The exams used to come, the mock exams used to come actually, I think in the media, sometimes there, and they were very tough exams.
Okay.
So some of us had not even revised for the exams. There was a lot of indiscipline in school at that time. I mean, we were not as serious as we were supposed to be. And I don't know how this information used to go around the schools. You used to hear, okay, another school has burnt their dormitory, another school has burnt, I don't know, their dining hall, another school has burnt their gate, I don't know.
So it encourages you to do something, to also.
Actually, it is a wave.
Okay.
It is a wave. And, you know, because all these other students have burnt something, also ask, let us go and actually do this. And it used to happen. It used to happen very well.
So the question is, Hussein, burning down of this school, did it relieve any pressure? 1. 2, did it then make you or give you more time to read for said exam?
I can be very honest, it has been a tough environment after coming back to school. We were actually sent home. We were very happy. I remember very well. We were actually sleeping in the school tarmac. We never slept in our dormitories because all the dormitories were locked. We were told all of us to sleep actually on the road actually that is going out to the school. So we slept there at night, and then in the morning we went home. But actually our parents are the ones who paid for all that damage.
But
it took us like around 3 weeks to come back.
My question is,
yes,
did it make it easier? Because you said the reason that brought this pressure was that exams were coming, right?
Yes.
You didn't have enough time to read. You had not read. So now here you are sleeping on the tarmac. You're still going to go back to school. Did you read a lot? Did you read better because you were not out of school?
Yeah, actually, the 3 weeks gave us time. Some of us actually gave us time to go and actually revise. And if you're not read, actually there was a bit of pressure that was eased. You know, when you go home and you are at home because you've burnt your school, I mean, there's some pressure that has actually been eased. Unfortunately, that is the situation. Yeah. Okay. And then now when you come back, you feel like, now we have rested. Now we are ready to go back to class. Unfortunately.
Thank you, Hussein. Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you, guys.
Ken, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
Let me say hi to the lady and to City.
Good morning.
Morning. Now, I think what is happening is that as a parent, we are missing in action. As a teacher, we are also missing in action. The teachers, we don't know really whether we want to be teachers, whether we want to be, whether we really want to stick to the line, because we don't know what the parents are up to. As parents, we are also confused. We don't know whether these are our children. We want to be their buddies. The line is not clear as to whether we want to be their buddies or we want to parent these children. The other thing that I think is also contributing to this, When you look at a house, how it's being governed, right from the CAs, those kind of inflammatory statements and, sorry to say so, and directives that we go giving, these students are part of the family. They just look at how we're conducting ourselves. And surely, when they come to sit together, they'll actually be able to conduct that. If this is our parents, the head of the family, and he's talking to us like this, and he's talking to our teachers who we're supposed to respect, he's talking to the headmasters, he's bashing them in the mainstream media. What do you expect of these children? What is it that they're picking and they're learning? And when something happens in one school, what happens? They also want to be part of this thing. They just want to join in, and there's a feeling and sense that they want to belong. So I think that is my take, and that is because in this right. Then we're also having, this is a time whereby we're supposed to be having sport. You've taken these kids back after a very long, they've been home for a very long time. They've been locked indoors. You bring them back. As you rightly put it, where is the outlet? Sports used to be a very good outlet. Now you don't have them anymore. So what is happening? Where are they going to rent it out? So the issues that they're raising and they're trying to use to whatever, they're saying we want to be heard.
Okay.
And if there's nobody that is listening to us, then if we do this, then
we're going to be heard.
This is how we're going to be heard. This is how we're going to drive the conversation.
Okay.
We're going to ban the school, then everybody comes here. Yeah, thank you.
Asante Ken. Larry in Machakos, good morning.
Good morning, Latiff.
Morning to you.
Yeah, what I can say is that, you see, there's a generation change. And most of these schools, our alumni was there. Me, my life in high school, I would even not want my child to go to boarding, because what I went through in boarding school back then, I just hated it. And in public boarding schools in Kenya, let's not lie, it's run like a military school. Because why are we hearing more of these cases in public boarding and less in private boarding? So there's this generational shift whereby the same old system whereby we were governed when we were in school is the same way they're trying to govern these kids when in school. And this generation, they are so emotional, not like us. We were taught by fear. If you do it, we will beat you. If you do it, you'll go uproot. This generation doesn't care.
So
the more fear you instill in them, the more rebellious they become. Yeah, and then there's no that role model. So I don't know. They just need to be a shift in our education.
The approach to education.
In a way we relate with them. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Okay.
And let's hear from Amos in Nairobi. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning to you.
How are you?
Very well.
Thank you. Now, I think most of the contributing factors, one of them could be, do we have, just in case, because like we go to high school, majority of them, not that they are young, they are the even old who are over 18 years, but maybe they went to school late. But now, in case there are grievances, is there a clear way of raising these grievances? Because I remember when we were in high school, there were, at some point we were having some issues. So we decided now we'll not ban school. But then we marched. We walked to the District Education Commission and raised our complaint. Now we came back to school with the same people. We had a meeting together with the parents. But then, immediately after these people left, nothing was done. In fact, we were blackmailed.
What issues were you raising?
Just not issues for the school. Maybe this teacher, just the number of issues for school. For the school children.
So complaints about a teacher, how a teacher is handling students, such.
Yes, and how we are being treated, the meals and the rest. There are common complaints in almost every school. Even the one we eat abandoned schools now, you realize maybe they are complaining about the meals, not being given time to watch TV. Maybe a teacher is frustrating them. So after everyone left, now we were left with now the same teachers. It was a blackmail. In fact, every time they used to tell us, now you decided to go to the reporters, now we want to see who is who. So next time, if there will be something which maybe needs to be discussed, do you think we will still go back to the teacher? What will happen? We'll have to ban school? At least now for our voices to be heard.
So you look for something else.
Should be a clear, yes. So there should be a clear way of raising the grievances. When you go back home, tell your parents maybe that these issues. What we as parents, what do we do? Do we just say, kama mwanaume, or do you also look for a way of maybe going to school and hearing from the other side of the school, so that at least we prevent this one? But as long as there will be no that listening here, the student, then I don't think all these ones will end. It will be a circle. It will still continue.
It continues.
Indeed.
Thank you, Amos.
Yes.
In Naivasha, our friend Karanja is on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric Latiff and Titu.
Good morning, Karanja.
Yes, how is it going?
Very well, thank you.
Now, like father, like son, like mother,
like daughter,
like son.
Daughter. We used to say a chip of block.
Chip
of the old block.
Yes, a chip of block, like father, like son, like mother, like daughter. So there are two issues. There are three issues that we are missing here. In school, especially boarding school, each and every time whenever students are getting in the school, there should be gara screening. How comes that they sneak these smart boxes, they treat the light or maybe the inflammable thing in the dormitory? We have the dormitory people who stay with either girls or boys. Another thing is, the school is at the level of CCTV or either a security person, 24-hour clock. How comes that this commotion is not handled by the security? Number 3, Ruku the Starehe boys, the Alliance, or the Nyeri High. You never had it. These are boarding school. You never had any of these schools. They are going on strike, or they are just banning their dormitory.
We have heard
Why?
Miranda.
Yes. Why?
We have heard Miranda.
Okay, you have had Miranda. But look, this is Miranda. Look at the issue of the transfer of the students. You find, like in a school, you find a case where principals they are around in this room for what? For
transfer.
What do I say? For transfers, yes. A bad student can be transferred from one school to the another.
A bad student.
Yes, a bad student can be transferred.
Expelled from
Maybe
one
from
and accepted in another.
Yes, he's expelled from one school and accepted to another school. These are the cases now, but because they look the issue of money. Maybe the parent of that student is a person who is worthy. Issues like this. So I think there is a negligence in education sector.
Okay.
During my time, we used to hear blackouts. When we want to demonstrate, tunaenda tunasema ile switch ya nini ya stima na inapotea. Ama tunaenda tunaharibu nini mashini ya ile generator na inazima. Hatuna tu kuwa tunachoma.
But there was a need to demonstrate, right? There was a need to demonstrate because there were certain issues that were not being addressed. By the time somebody's getting to the point of demonstration, it means that there were certain things that you had maybe tried to raise through another avenue and it didn't work, or that nobody heard you, right? So then the need to demonstrate. And we can see, and it can be explained that until today, it has graduated to the place whereby learners are even using violence, which is quite unfortunate. But it doesn't run away from the fact that there were issues that needed to be addressed and were not being addressed.
Unless we change our attitudes, like parents, the issue of discussing a primary teacher or a secondary teacher with the kids there, this is another thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karanja. It's time for us to take a break. So what's the cause of the unrest and what's the solution? Well, you know what we're discussing now has been discussed before. In 2019, the National Assembly Committee on Education conducted some hearings across boarding schools to understand what was causing the unrest then. In 2006, the then Education CS, Fred Matiang'i, appointed a team, a task force, to go and look at the unrest in boarding schools led by Claire Omolo. Come back with reports. There are some things that are, a common thread in all these reports, and we were looking at them. And also, what else is happening in the society? I am holding, yes, there are issues that students have, issues they need to raise, their issues of now, how are those issues addressed? But at the bottom line, what would make the students feel that it is much easier now to go and torch a dormitory? It's much easier now to go and do all these things that they are doing. And I think there's a breakdown in discipline in our society. Like Karanja is saying, chip off the old block. This is who we are. Our children are basically just how we've raised them. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take this break on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and online. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has anybody ever that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 19, highs of 27, lows of 15 today. It's mostly sunny in Nakuru as well at 16, highs of 27 and lows of 15. Nyeri sunny at 16, highs of 26 and lows of 13. And Eldoret is sunny as well at 17, highs of 25 and lows of 13. Mombasa this morning, rainy in some parts, mostly sunny, highs of 31 and lows of 24. Malindi is partly sunny at 26, highs of 31 today. Kisumu, partly sunny conditions at 22, highs of 31 and lows of 19. And Kakamega will be sunny through today at 22 currently, highs of 30 and lows of 17. Mostly sunny conditions at 22 in Kampala. At 28, that'll be the high, coming down to lows of 19. It's raining in Dar es Salaam at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 24. 16 degrees and mostly sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 22 and lows of 10. It's mostly clear in Lagos at 23. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 32. We'll see highs of 33 in Kinshasa. It's mostly sunny at 23. That'll be today's low.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul.
Bagavi Way, the Eastern Bypass, etc., etc. Forget it. Monday morning has decided absolutely no way. We're going to use those and mash people up in terms of traffic today. Probably one of the busiest days we've seen in a long time. In the CBD, it's not moving. Uhuru Highway, absolutely crazy. In and outbound traffic. And who's taking the major brunt of this traffic? Haile Selassie Avenue. Coming in from Kamkunji at the roundabout. Also then from Uhuru Highway at that roundabout. Everybody meets where? On that avenue. And it doesn't look pretty at all. The Thika Superhighway is not letting up, at least not for now. Probably going to have to wait and see until after 9 o'clock what that looks like. But for now, jam-packed completely, as is Kiambu Road and Limuru Road today. Getting towards Wangari Maathai Road out into the city. Everywhere you look is what? Everywhere you look is traffic. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch with us today. Where are you stuck? Let us know. Text as well on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
That's
FM.
5 minutes to 9. So some comments on social media. Ndu.
Quite some. Kibet says, where there is smoke, certainly there is fire. It's uncalled for, but something is running deep. The government should close schools indefinitely and on resumption, let students engage in sports and other co-curricular activities. Stephen says the solution lies at home. If parents raise disciplined kids with the basic life skills of accountability and integrity, even if they get a truant, they know consequences will follow. Unfortunately, some parents have abdicated their role to their kids. Well, abdicated their own role to their children. All right. Reflection of leadership in this country is what Wamugunda says. No role models in society to shape our children into decent adults. Brian says, burning of schools is not a good form of communication, but it seems it's the only language that the MOE would hear. Invictus says, there is that boredom since schools reopened fully and students have little time to socialize at home, get to discover whether they need to improve on where they need to improve. All this is just school pressure, exam fever from teachers who are after performance of the school as well. I got to read what Umar says. I think it's interesting. Umar says, avoid single schools. So I guess single gender schools. Parents no longer play their part in grooming children, so they are hostile. Children should grow up in God-fearing and humble. He says charity begins at home. Maximum security at schools should be ensured. School owners create problems to others so as to get students in the schools, right? As well as political issues. This can be caused by that as well. Security should be tight. Wardens should be vigilant. Cameras should be installed within school perimeters to ensure safety and security.
You know, there's a very keen listener, James Mushiri, says, on a light note, our mothers were terrorists.
Abio.
Said, so when the thought of being suspended, leave alone expulsion from school, the idea of facing your parents was never an option. So therein lies why we largely have a discipline problem today. I believe what he's saying is absolutely true, but it touches on one of the issues that we're dealing with. These students which we're speaking of, the teachers, even the parents, these are victims. I'm going to explain why I'm saying they are victims.
So students, teachers, parents are victims.
The current ones, victims. And I'm going to tell you why they're victims. You see, you can't mention a generation and not think of what you inherit from one generation to the other. The generation that people talk of, in our time, schools was this and this, probably my generation. And that generation had parents who were among the first Africans to start working immediately after independence. So what do? Some of them took their children to former Mzungu schools. Some of them took their students. But there was this aspiration, and the aspiration was based on what they thought would be better. So now when those children, who are people like myself and my generation, come into being, what do they then do? In an attempt to make lives of their children better, they take certain steps. And they introduce certain normal Western norms. Okay? Now, give it another turn, and the generation, and I'm talking about my generation, people got married in their 20s. Their children will now be in their 40s. Okay? Now, they are also now parents. Now, you tell me, every generation seeking in their minds to try and make the lives of their children better. Now, better is modernize. Modernize is look at the Western ways of dealing with children.
So be lenient.
Yes. Like lenient, and then it isn't balanced with responsibility. So it's just lenient. So the child just expects leniency. Okay? Think for a single second when people want to merge these generations, in a time when you knew the real discipline was at home, would the thought of forget burning in school, even being punished for throwing litter, would anything that would report back to your parents even occur to you? The answer is no.
Of course not. You're even going far. The thought of passing your teacher and not greeting him or her.
Yes.
Because of what has been instilled in you.
Yes.
Where you are coming from.
Not
which
just
is home.
greeting. Stand up.
Yes.
Just that alone.
And when and stop when you see them. Yes. Now, some may think that was dictatorial, but that was discipline.
Yep.
And in that atmosphere of discipline, You didn't hear these crazy situations where a child was beaten senseless. You didn't hear a situation where a child was punished by prefects and they ended up in hospital. It not only rarely happened, you didn't hear of it. You know why? With the discipline comes perimeters. You know this ought to be done, this ought not to be done. Now, bring it to modern day. Why am I calling them victims? These students we're speaking of, they have been brought up in a certain way by parents who think what they're doing is good. And what you're seeing is a manifestation of the things they have learned. There's what you teach and there's what the child learns. And then you put them together and they bring these ideas together. Again, you see the manifestation. All these groups that were formed, task forces and committees, studies done on security studies, the reform measures that the education ministry took after they had found. If you read these documents, man, they are detailed. And everything that our listeners have been talking about were captured, and then some. So why do you have this situation that never seems to come to an end? Well, one, you try and implement them, these children go back home. And when they go back to their homes, you know, I was thinking of, you break windows, parents pay. There was a time that wouldn't have. You did what? The parent won't pay. The parent just tell you that's okay. You're not going back to school. That's the end of it. You clearly have no interest.
Finish that story.
Yeah, we will do. You go and do something else with your life. It's understood. I am not. You have gone and broken something, then I am paying for it.
Not happening.
And I took you to school to learn. What you're doing was interfering with your learning? No. So why are you doing it? Because of this and this. Okay, that's fine. Then, if it was your friend, why don't you go back to your friend and tell their parents to pay for you? Because I am certainly not paying for you. What am I trying to say? When Eric talked about discipline, he actually got to the heart of the matter and the manner in which discipline is actually enforced. There's a generation that grew up in understanding that when children in the sitting room and visitors leave, the children stand up, greet the visitors, and then leave. The generation that has grown up to believe when children are in the sitting room and visitors come in, they just jump on the chairs even next to the visitor.
Yeah.
And the parents saying, "Oh, daddy or mommy, stop jumping on the chair." That's what they understand. Therein, my friend, there'll be a generational gap.
We have issues in our society.
Yes.
And it goes even from the way we are bringing up the children to how we address issues. Because it's true, Ndu, when students say that they have issues of concern, just like one of those callers who called and said, we would, trek many kilometers and come back. And what are the issues? Same basic. It's TV time. We have not been allowed to watch TV. It's games time. We've not been allowed to go play. We've been told by a certain teacher, we need to extend prep to come earlier for some reason. It's there's a meal. It's about our diet, and you're feeling, hey, there's too much maram in a week. We need to at least be given some rice. All those issues. They are big issues to the people in this age. They are big issues. Are those issues big enough for them to that require attention? Yes, they do require attention. Are there channels that have been established over time by tradition that these issues how they shall be addressed? Yes, there are, including talking to the parents and raising the concerns with the parents. But I think in today's society, the way we as adults behave when we have an issue to raise is one big issue, is a main one. Because we as adults, our first default way of expressing our concern is violent.
Yes.
We pour out into the streets. We are teachers. We are talking about our pay rise. We're out in the streets. Oh, haki yetu. We lie on the road. We block the road. We put stones on the road. We light tires on the road. We are blocking traffic. That our children are seeing.
And guess who's
Last
watching?
year, there was a story about some parents in some school in Meru. They had some concern about the headmaster. And they were feeling that this headmaster is not doing the right thing for this school. In fact, what has he done? What did the parents do? The parents, it's reported, they went and took the school's cows and they slaughtered the cows and divided the meat among themselves. Now, you tell me, surely.
And the children have observed all this.
And they're the ones who've eaten the cow.
Yes. Now, you tell me, this story of discipline, where do you think it's going to end up?
If this is how we address issues ourselves, if we get up this morning and, we decide we're going to throw stones, we are going to touch, we are going to... because we have a concern about a road that has not been constructed, what do? We torch, we burn tires, we go and collect tires and we put them on the road and we burn and we make sure we barricade. Hakuna mtu ataenda Mombasa leo. We have decided Mombasa Road is where it's going to happen. This is the first reaction of the kids.
How effective are the channels of communication or sorting out some of these issues that are brought up? And I think that's something that we must focus on. In as much as we want to say there's indiscipline and such, look, there is no justifiable reason. You will not say that because of my issue, that is why I burnt the school. It is not just this end in this case does not is not justified by the means.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing to look at channels to sort out some of these issues? We've had 2 or 3 people today who've talked about those channels and modes having been eroded over time. What is being done to address some of these matters?
Nothing. Beyond writing reports.
You write a report,
Nothing.
You put it together, you form a task force, and you say, we'll look at one of the biggest issues affecting this country today, mental health. What has happened? It has been recommended. There's a report. There's a task force that sat down. Okay, we'll address it. Term 1 finishes. Children go home, come back, fermenting those issues. The barazas that they used to hold, yes, we had them every Friday. They worked very well. We could see that you could actually talk to the school administration. Issues got sorted. Teachers and administration got to understand students, and then we got that sorted. Over time, you say, okay, maybe this thing is actually not important, without realizing the importance of that sitting together and coming out and thrashing out those issues. So what happens over time? The importance is eroded. We don't discuss it anymore, and you think that you will maintain that status quo without dealing with some of these issues. My friend, it cannot happen.
You know, there's also
in as much as people, below the age of 18, these children don't have rights. You're supposed to listen to what your people with authority over you are supposed to do. They are the ones who will tell you how to live and breathe and operate. No.
That thinking is a little out of its time.
In as much as this action is wrong and should be condemned in the highest ways what's possible, what are we doing to look at outlet channels for communication, for dealing with some of these grievances? Let me tell you, at that age, when you bread, chapati, it is the most important thing to you in the world at that time for you to be able to perform. We cannot run away from the importance of it. We might try to trivialize it today and say, what is it? After all, I walked 10 kilometers to school with just a drop of black tea in my lungs. No. For somebody who is operating in school at that moment, with the pressure that we know that they're facing, we cannot run away from those from that responsibility. Outlet channels, where are they?
You can't trivialize what someone who is a student of this generation is telling you that's their problem.
That's their problem. The world, to them, that problem is their world.
Yes, understand it from their point of view, not yours. Yours is good as a balance to understand, yes. But if you really want to understand the problem, you have to understand that problem as understood by them. You know, I have a theory I always bring up here now, and I'm going to bring up that theory again. Most serious problems have to be approached, have to have a multi-pronged approach. It can't be just this one little pill fixes everything. Now, the one thing that I've always felt has never been given adequate attention is the profession of teaching, with the demands we put on who it is we want to be a teacher, in whose hands we want to leave children, that's one. How we want to manage their affairs and how we want to compensate them. And B, whether we are, the same argument I use when I talk about the police, you put the demands on them, but do you facilitate them adequately? I've always been of the view that if you look at what teachers do and the influence they have on society, you need to take that profession a little more seriously than anything else that you think of in the country.
I'm telling you.
I mean, literally anything else.
And as you say that, my daughter, 11-year-old, came to me the other day and she said, you know what, I had this problem with this particular formula, right? It was mathematics. And I said, okay, you know what? And I said, beyond a teacher coming to teach you 1, 2, 3, they're actually supposed to help you understand. Now, if you don't understand, it is well within your right to say, excuse me, Mr. Muga, I don't understand this thing. Can you please explain? Do you know what Oga teacher told her? Oga teacher said, that's the formula. And I've told you, if you don't understand, that's too bad. So tell me, this 11-year-old girl, if she doesn't have a father who is a math whiz, she can go home and he will explain to her 1, 2, 3, the way she'll understand. We'll go back to class. tomorrow.
Still not understanding.
Afraid to ask this man to explain to her what is happening tomorrow. It builds. It builds. It builds. She finishes this term. She goes into the next year. The math teacher is still the same. Will she ask tomorrow?
No, she won't.
Is that not a grievance that she's imbibing?
And is she the only one with that grievance?
Ferment? How many more?
And others who heard it, do you think they're ever going to dare?
Will their shadows darken the door of his office to go and ask tomorrow to help me?
They will
It will
not.
never happen.
They will not.
They will not. Now, does she think that torching the school will address her issue?
That is not my point.
Oh, no.
No, my point is different.
Let's address Eric's point.
My point is different. My point is that those are legitimate grievances, and there should be legitimate concern on how to address them.
Exactly. And my point is that
There
they
is
are not.
also the point of upbringing. Now, if you bring up your child to believe that they are entitled to everything that they ask for in the manner in which they ask for it and at the time that they expect it to be given to them, you have failed your child.
You're entitled to ask a teacher to be able to explain to you what they are teaching.
You're entitled, but there are circumstances.
Actually, Ndu is right, Eric.
And
you're
no,
not
the teacher
right.
is teaching. Teach it.
It's your job as a
It's your
teacher
job.
to ensure that the student understands.
Not just that you have given the information,
your
you
job
seep
as a
it in as
teacher.
you like. No.
The example I'm giving, I'm saying, if even at home, your child comes today and says, I want A, B, C, D, that is the expectation.
How do you manage that? Yes.
If you have taught that child that as long as they have voiced, that's the expectation, it shall be given unto them in the manner in which they've asked for it, and the time they demanded it, you have failed the child.
You're setting that child up.
Yes. So this child, they may actually be given a different response by the teacher. Like, okay, this is a formula. Let's have some time later. I'm not talking about this particular case. I'm saying, let's have some time later. I'm going to explain.
This is a for example situation.
Yes. I'm going to explain. I'm going to do this and the other. You didn't get it. I have taught it 3 times. Maybe there's an issue we shall address later. But because of the way they are brought up, they expect that they raise their hand. It doesn't matter whether there are 15 other children who've raised their hands. It is their hand that shall be picked.
Valid point, Eric.
Issues.
Valid point.
We've got to balance all these things. Yes, concerns about how we are treating our teachers, how we are enumerating our teachers, how we are remunerating our teachers, rather how we are facilitating our teachers, how we are managing the education system, how we are looking at reports that come and whether we address them on time. All those things are valid. Whether we have communication channels in school, whether they are there or not, those things are valid. However, it's also very important for the learners to know that because there's a breakdown in the channel, the way to fix this channel is not to resort to violence.
I want to remember the story that Siti gave us at the very beginning of this conversation. How many people were involved in that
burning of that
drama?
vehicle?
How many people can you say, of all the drama that was happening, smoke billowing everywhere, car being overturned, how many people did you now, till today, you remember that there were 3 people?
Yes, I recall very
out
vividly.
of that whole crowd. And my point is that when you see the fire, your initial assumption is that all these children in this school all held the match collectively and struck it, and this school burnt. And we're saying that there's rampant indiscipline in schools, and you'll find out that it's one bad apple that spoils the bunch. That there's just a few who may not even influence the others, but that did something and then were able to hide amongst the crowds in the melee that took over thereafter.
Enabling
and so
and
what I am
facilitating.
saying, my point is, at that point, you might be able to say that everybody now was involved in this indiscipline and that one person didn't get what they wanted. They may have had a conversation about it. They may have had a conversation and said, maybe we need to figure this out a different way. Somebody said, let's just burn this car. How many people were having that conversation?
Logic Ndu will dictate that in that case, you'll have fewer instances. Because not 30 schools cannot be having 30 bad apples who are so influential that the 30 students would be going and touching dormitories by themselves.
How many girls are being arraigned from Buruburu this morning?
Eric, do you remember this question that you and I were dealing with a while back? We're talking about hysteria. Remember?
Yes.
And you're asking, and why does it only happen in girls' schools? Okay? there's something you need to understand about a certain age when people are very susceptible to influence. Adolescence actually is an age where people are fairly susceptible, not just to influence, but to also peer pressure.
Yes.
Even as you grow up, you're still susceptible, but you're most susceptible then.
Yeah.
Why did I bring in the discussion of the teacher? You bring up a child in a certain way, they meet their contemporaries, their behavior begins to change given what they think would enable them to fit in. But you taught them.
Yes.
Now, where the teacher then comes in, a teacher who has an interest in their job and a commitment to it will reinforce those values.
What you taught.
Yes. Now, a teacher who doesn't have an interest beyond killing 40 minutes and moving to the next will reinforce nothing. In fact, if anything, they will reinforce all the negative attitudes that you see.
That you've picked up on.
I actually believe that when you see these school burnings, you're looking for people to blame beyond parents, teachers. Students are the ones who actually carry out. Why do I say this? There's always a child in every class who is given to trying to be a teacher's pet and trying to give the teacher information. So what the student body knows, if the teacher is on good terms with the students, they will know. Because somebody will have told you, Mwalimu, this is what's happening. They will know. So, is it that these things can be nipped in the bud? They can.
Absolutely.
And why are they not nipped in the bud? Because, one, the information is not cascaded.
Duty of care has been tossed out the window a long time ago.
So, again, the thing I was saying, the need to actually focus. You want a country with responsible citizens who know what they're doing. My friend, when they leave your house as a parent, where do they go to? School. That teacher is there in loco parentis instead of the parent. You may not like it, but that's what they are. So shouldn't we enforce, insist that our education system has to have the best individuals you actually can master to carry out this duty? Because it is just about the most important one.
So if it is now put on the shoulders of just anybody who is feeling any type of way, filling in a job card, filling in an hourly card,
and they're unhappy with the job,
what do you think is going to happen?
They are completely unhappy with the job because that's all they wanted. They wanted to become God knows what, and you just give them this job as a teacher, and they know that was not their first choice. The person is disgruntled even before they graduate. By the time they graduate, it's a multiplied. His friend who did so and so is driving a car, and he can't even afford a bicycle. And then there are these snooty parents who come to bother us every day here with all this, and the equally snooty children who are giving us headaches.
Time for us to say goodbye to audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since the top of the hour. The conversations continue on SpiceFM. You can tune in to SpiceFM from wherever you are around the country. If it's Nairobi 94.4, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi is 97.7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
In
94
2016, the task force that was set up to look at what was causing school unrest went and came up with very many recommendations. One of them was look at the boarding schools, and the ones that do not meet the minimum requirements set by the Ministry of Education, convert them immediately into day schools. That was to happen within a year. If you can't upgrade them, make them day schools immediately. Has that happened? No, it hasn't. There are very many other things that the committee had recommended and also found out, including some of the causes of indiscipline being what they were calling the students devil worship and others. The Parliamentary Committee on Education looked at the issue of school unrest in 2019. They looked at various issues, and among them was that there's indiscipline, there's the issue of the children who've been transferred from other schools coming in. Have those recommendations been addressed? No, they haven't. So the government needs to know what it needs to do. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around
This
the
is
world.
Newswire. I'm Dennis
94.4
Aseto.
Spice
Dormitory fire
FM.
has been reported in 2 more schools, raising alarm as the arson incident spread across the country. The latest incident was reported at Malindi High School in Nyeri and Mombasa Girls School in Machakos last night and this morning, respectively. According to police, a dormitory housing 200 students at Malindi High School was burned on Sunday night. In Machakos, authorities said a dormitory at Moala Girls Secondary went up in flames today morning, destroying property of unknown value. The fire started when the students were in class for their morning studies. These as 2 students from Buruburu Girls High School are said to be arraigned today over the fire incident at the school that occurred last week, leading to admission of 59 students in hospital. The 2 are accused of planning and burning one of the cubicles on October 31st before escaping and leaving their colleagues behind. The 2 were allegedly had planning to burn one of the cubicles and were later seen leaving the scene before the fire erupted. Now, the Ministry of Health has announced 20 new COVID-19 infections from a sample size of 3,444 tested in the last 24 hours. The new infections, according to the Health Ministry, recorded a positivity rate of 0.6% and now push the tally of positive cases confirmed so far to 253,833. From the cases, 19 are Kenyans and 1 foreigner, 13 males and 7 are females. A woman in Makueni County is nursing burn injuries she sustained while saving her baby. Diana Muthui is said to have been involved in a brawl with her husband, who had come home drunk. Reports indicate that Diana had briefly left the house following the disagreement, only for the husband, Davis Matata, to sprinkle kerosene in the house and lit it up. Diana sustained burn injuries on the face, waist and hands while rushing in to rescue the baby. The baby, according to the DCI, did not sustain any injuries. Police are looking for Matata, who escaped. We also hope that the mother gets to feel better soon. More university students are expected to resume classes today after the university was temporarily closed following a strike by the university staff. According to a statement from the university, the students have been asked to report back despite the existing disagreement between the staff and the college. Several workers have already been sent letters asking them to explain why they should not be fired after the strike, letters that UASU has called for annulment before negotiations begin. The workers complained of pay delays and non-compliance with various agreements regarding their employment benefits. 16 sailors have been stranded at the port of Mombasa since March this year and are suffering from water and food shortages. The sailors, who are the crew of the R.A. Horati fishing vessel flying the Kenyan flag, are citizens of Indonesia, Korea and Vietnam. The owner of the ship has stopped attending to the sailors who continue to struggle. Statistics from the International Labour Organization show that a total of 57 ships have been abandoned since the beginning of 2021. In 2019 alone, a total of 474 sailors working on 40 ships were evacuated by their employers and ship owners. In 2018, 44 cases of abandoned employees were reported. Now, Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi escaped unhurt from an assassination attempt in which an explosive-packed drone hit his Baghdad residence, a new escalation into the country's post-election turmoil. US President Joe Biden condemned the terrorist attack and said he was relieved Kadhimi was not injured, while Iraqi President Barham Saleh said it was an attempted coup against the constitutional system. The attack has not been claimed by any group. Kadhimi, 54 and in power since May 2020, appealed for calm and restraint before chairing a meeting at its office in the high-security Baghdad green zone where the overnight attack took place. And FKF Premier League clash between Kakamega Homeboyz and Bandari FC ended in chaotic fashion after a massive brawl broke out when the final whistle went. The visiting Bandari players hassled the referee, incensed by the decision to award the home side a late penalty, and were themselves subject of retaliatory attacks from the Homeboyz fans. The match ended in a 1-1 draw with goals from Benjamin Mosha and Brian Eshanda cancelling out. What would have been a match-winning penalty was saved by goalkeeper Michael Wanyaka. And Red Bull's Max Verstappen took a dominant victory in the Mexico City Grand Prix to strengthen his chances of a first world championship. Verstappen's title rival Lewis Hamilton was second, the Mercedes driver holding off a charge from Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez in the closing laps. Perez was on Hamilton's tail on the last lap but was not able to pass. Verstappen's 9th win in 2021 gives him a 19-point lead with 4 races and a total of 107 points remaining. Hamilton's teammate Valtteri Bottas deprived the Dutchman of the point for fastest lap on the final tour. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto.
It is not letting up, folks, and we're looking at Huru Highway whole area then from Mombasa Road out then towards Westlands today, in and outbound. There's a bumper-to-bumper situation around every 10 meters or so. We're also looking at it still heavy on Landis Road going out towards Kamkunji. If you're getting into the city via Kamkunji, that's going to take some time. Ngong Road not looking too bad. Pockets of traffic here and there. But Gavi Way, though, however, leading towards Ngong Road is quite slow today. All right, Aerodrome also feeding off from Langata Road getting onto the Mombasa Road today is actually still quite thick, as is Langata Road. Not as bad as it was earlier, but looking a lot better now. Thika Superhighway, much better, guys. It's just around Survey, then out into the city where we see some traffic today. Let's keep an eye on things, okay? Eastern Bypass still having that issue there. So avoid it for the first time in a long time. I'm saying avoid the Eastern Bypass today if you can. Let's talk in about half an hour. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
7 minutes
the
after
only
9.
way
Good
to start
morning.
your day.
It's the Situation Room. This is the final hour of the show this Monday morning. And CT has the day's Maasai proverb.
Yes, esuj, erashe, ngejuk, emusana.
Mm-hmm.
A new idea follows an old one.
A new idea follows an old idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, there's an issue here. And the issue is with regards to leadership and integrity. That's chapter 6 of the Constitution. Leadership and integrity as contained in statutes. And this is with regards to the conduct of cabinet secretaries in politics. Should cabinet secretaries double up in any form, shape in political discussions? And how do you define between a cabinet secretary being involved in politics and a cabinet secretary being involved in basically doing their job, which is what the executive is doing, which is running the government? At what point does it become, hii sasa ni siasa, hii ni maendeleo?
First of all, who is a state officer and who's a government officer?
Those ones, eh?
Let's start there, because
public officer versus state officer.
Yes, because in my mind, they're the same people. They work for the government.
State officers are by and large those that are appointed,
by the president. Usually. Yes.
Right? And then now the public officer is...
Some,
they go through vetting.
And they're not employed by the Public Service Commission and other such commissions. If a constitution is not clear on an issue, and this one, there are those who argue it is, there are those who argue it isn't, then there's the issue is when you want to find, when you want to justify a position and you're looking at the constitution, is that position or the argument that you're putting across justified by one section of the constitution, or do you need to look at various aspects of the constitution that speak on that same subject?
That apply to this particular matter.
Yes, and then look at that overall position. What position do they take on that particular matter?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me give some context into this. This is because it's reported that close allies of Deputy President William Ruto are threatening legal action to force the removal from office of ministers who support Raila Odinga's 2022 presidential bid. UDA leaders are vowing to file a lawsuit against Cabinet Secretaries Fred Matiang'i and Joe Mucheru for allegedly violating the Leadership and Integrity Act by taking sides in political campaigns. The party is accusing the two highly influential ministers of biased views despite calls for political neutrality of state officers and public officials. UDA is arguing that the duo cannot be trusted to discharge their duties impartially, as they have already endorsed the ODM leaders' campaigns and they have been attacking the deputy president. They have written a letter to the IEBC claiming the ministers would be central to preparations for the polls due to their roles as heads of security and the ICT. We'll have to pursue this matter through other legal means. IEBC will be responsible for any bungled electoral process, said UDA chairman Johnson Mudhama. Murang'a Senator Irungu Kang'ata, let's call him Dr. Irungu Kang'ata, said UDA might be compelled to file a lawsuit against state servants violating the Leadership and Integrity Act. The law compels state servants to act in a neutral manner. For example, there's an example here of Dr. Fred Matiang'i speaking in Nyamira a fortnight ago, where he declared support for the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Mr. Odinga. He said, "I have now told you where I am. I cannot be where Mr. Odinga and President Kenyatta are not." The IBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, acknowledged UDA's concerns in a letter dated November 5th to its Secretary General Veronica Maina, saying all state officers and public officials should uphold political neutrality. Now, this matter of whether cabinet secretaries should be involved in any way, shape or form with political campaigns was canvassed before the Supreme Court when the presidential petition was taken to the Supreme Court in 2017. The question of the role of the CSs in an election campaign and the legality of Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act were major grounds that ODM party leader Raila Odinga had raised as he sought to have President Uhuru Kenyatta's election win nullified. Mr. Odinga had cited what he termed as improper conduct of President Kenyatta's CS Mucheru, Najib Balala, Mwangi Kionjori and Eugene Wamalwa when they gave donations to internally displaced persons to influence them to vote for Jubilee in 2017. Raila argued that cabinet secretaries are prohibited by the Constitution, the Political Parties Act and the Public Officer Ethics Act and the Election Offences Act from participating in political activities. Apart from demanding that the 4 CSs be prosecuted, the former Prime Minister was urging the court to declare Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act as unconstitutional. However, the judges had something else to say. The judges said, whereas this in the judgment, the 4 Supreme Court judges ruled that Section 23 was ambiguous because it exempts CSs from the prohibition that public officers should not engage in active politics, but it sought to justify this ambiguity. The judges noted that CSs and county executive committee members serve at the pleasure of either the president or the governor respectively, suggesting that they should be dabbling in politics because the president and the governor are political animals and they are running a political machine called government. So their appointees at cabinet secretary who are executing what the president or the governor wish will inevitably end up playing in politics. Now, should they come out and declare their side and such? Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line between now a CS coming out to say, you know what, guys, in this election, we are supporting so and so. I mean, this is what we are doing.
See, why I asked the first question was because in my mind, a CS, given the role that they play in government, is a public servant.
Mm-hmm.
And as a public servant, they shouldn't actually be allowed to have any bias. And the moment you choose a side, you have exercised the bias. So then one question is, the position that you hold, important as it is, how then can you actually impart your duties impartially? Because that job requires you to serve the nation.
Yes.
How do we now define, I think now it goes down to the granular, how do we define what the CS is doing their job, whatever they are saying? How do we define when they have now moved into politics of taking sides or moved into the politics of basically just taking the side of the government that they are serving?
Well, I mean, when you have open and clear endorsements of an individual who is running for a political position.
Like?
Vote Eric Latiff for, I'm saying that I'm standing behind such an individual. He is the person who would be able to. It's clear that you've taken a side.
Mm-hmm.
It is very clear. I don't think...
and it is you who has stated it.
And it's you who has stated it. You're not echoing what somebody else has said. You're in public, having stood and said, this is the person that I would say would be able to do the best for the country.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also the assumption that by the time you have been appointed to serve as a part of the executive, that you're already on the side of the powers that be.
Actually, it's on the side of whoever appointed you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Politically, you already have... Politically, it is assumed that this is the side that you're on. Right?
Yes.
And that anything coming out after that would be that you're just fermenting or that you're just cementing the position which you had inadvertently selected before.
You know, if you look at, for instance, the role that parliamentarians play in parliament, and you speak to them, and some have said so on this very show, somebody may even have a perspective or a view that differs. But then there is playing with the team. This is what the team is saying. So your personal opinion about a particular point becomes irrelevant. And if you then take a position that is recognized and is inked as being in opposition, then you're considered a renegade. You see, the moment you are a public servant and you are appointed to a position of authority like that of a minister, Ndu has put it well, you already have a side.
Yeah, but, and it's all clear, but because now what you're doing is you're also serving the country.
Yes.
Right? Is it proper for you to come out and openly, side with one?
Openly state your position.
Openly state your position.
Or your preferred position.
Yes.
It causes problems.
Is it proper? And how does it become improper if the president, your boss, is campaigning? If the president or the governor is campaigning, is on the ground and saying, this, I'm seeking re-election, and this is the work that we've done, and this is what we need to do, and we cannot allow our country to go into this direction because the CS will come and repeat the same.
Why don't we look at that example and give it, should we say, a 360? Okay? Fine. Here I am in a position of authority, and I have certain benefits that come with my position. One of them is a job, one of them is a car, one of them is personnel, one of them is resources, in short. Okay? Now, how do you determine when it is I'm actually doing my job, the job designated to me, and when is it that I am playing politics? And at what point am I supposed to use these resources? And I'm saying all of them, irrespective of whether it is a house, it is a car, it is an office, at what point? And at what point am I using them in serving the public? Because that's why I'm given those particular facilities.
It's hard to tell because look at it from both sides. That those who would be on your side, as it were, say, well, this fellow's just doing his job or her job. But anybody who would be on the other side of that which you are said to be supporting will say, you see, state resources being used because they're campaigning for this one or the other. Vehicle taking you from point A to B. You see, resources that should have been used to do something else in the sector through which you have been appointed is now being used to campaign. Whether or not you're actually doing what your job requires you to do. I think a lot of optics play here heavily. That you will say, all right, person in the Ministry of X as the CS is in the middle of nowhere during a political rally, or has gone to open up particular building, right? In their capacity as cabinet secretary, right? During that time, has said one or two things that would endorse City Muga as the
XYZ.
As the XYZ. Everything they do will be said that there is an abuse of office because they are using the position to go and campaign. Had it not that they were not in that position, you would not say.
But you see, Ndu, when you say it that way and you put it very well, you know what in essence, what we're discussing is how much hypocrisy we can accommodate
there you go.
Without actually calling it hypocrisy. Okay? What it is that we are willing to, meaning if you support a position or a person in politics and you're in the public space, So long as you do it quietly and it isn't in the open, then we will also quietly pretend you aren't doing it.
No, but you see, the thing is, for the person on the other side, it doesn't matter whether you do it quietly or overtly. By virtue of the fact that you're in that position and it is known that you lean in this way politically, it doesn't matter whether it is in the dark or whether it is in the light. Everything that you touch in this sense is outside of the confines of your agreements as somebody in that position. It doesn't matter.
That's why I brought in the term hypocrisy, because it also means so long as it is you. If I am doing the same thing, it is different.
Yes.
You are a cabinet secretary, so of course let the spotlight be on you.
Yes, and if I am the people who support me are doing it, it is different. It's only when other people are doing it when it is. But is that not the hypocrisy we live in this country, where somebody is accused of doing something untoward, and because the community supports them, they're being picked on?
So do we go?
And so the issue isn't even being discussed.
So do we go as far as saying, then if you hold that position, that it doesn't matter on what side of the political divide you lie, you should not be involved in any kind of politicking whatsoever?
But that's why now we
do your job.
How do we say that you are being involved? At what point do we say you've been involved, and at what point? Obvious ones, all right?
When you open your mouth and endorse an individual.
Obvious ones. Let's say Raila Odinga is in Nyandarua and he's in a caravan of political campaign.
Right.
Now, as a cabinet minister, don't
be there.
Okay?
Yes.
However, Raila Odinga has come to a certain region and you're there. Okay? He has come to Nyamira and you are a cabinet secretary and you are also a leader who is understood to be a leader among this community. You're there. He speaks what he's saying and you just sit there. You are present. Is that wrong? Another one, Raila Odinga is not there, but you are there. And then you say, you know what, people? You have seen the benefits of the handshake.
Yeah.
Handshake has brought peace, has brought development, and you can all see. Now, if you keep asking me where I lie, obviously I lie on the side where my boss, the president, and his brother, the prime minister, are. So I'm on the side of the handshake. Now,
is it wrong?
Which of those things is political? Where have you played politics and where have you not played politics? How do we now start saying, when you went and gave money to IDPs, you are a minister, the government it's not your money.
The government has...
It's not Jubilee Party's money.
Within your docket, you are supposed to distribute this.
There is money for IDPs for relocation and of IDPs. You've gone and given money to IDPs so that they can go and buy pieces of land and live. Is that playing politics? Simply because with that they saw that the government is working and they've therefore decided they want to vote for the government. Have you influenced them or were you doing your work? If you come and open a road today, you're a minister. You come and open the road today, here. Are you influencing the people or are you doing your job?
So where do we draw the line between okay, so there are things that you do, essentially, you are fulfilling the requirements of your job as this individual.
Yes.
There are also instances where people will take those same requirements and use them as political leverage without people now being aware of what actually is happening behind the scenes. Giving money to IDPs, that was something very clear, came away from government, right? Those will see it and say, okay, you know what, we are giving this money. We have
the political side of it
the
timing.
We have helped IDPs. We're very close to an election, etc., etc. Folks then voted in this direction because government was helping them out.
Yeah.
We still have the situations where people on their own volition will stand and say, I think you should, or rather, I endorse, I recommend, I insist on 1, 2, 3. I'm campaigning for. When it is overt in that manner, or whether it is hidden, for me, those are waters that should not be swum into.
You need to understand this thing well. You need to consider the time when we were a single party state. These ambiguities we're discussing did not even arise.
It was a job of a minister to campaign for KANU.
Thank you very much.
And
it was the job of the PC, the job of the DC, the job of the DO, the job of the chief.
To campaign for KANU.
Yes, but KANU was the employer.
Yeah. Today, CT, I am distinguishing between the two. I do not expect a PS going down to come out and campaign for, and especially the provincial administration, the entire structure. But a minister, I have absolutely no problem. Look, a minister is part of this administration.
You know,
they are looking to retain power.
They are political animals.
Yes. This administration goes, the minister goes. If the administration goes, Natembeya does not leave office. Whoever comes in as president, Natembeya will still be a regional commissioner, or he may be promoted to PS or maybe made CS. But his job as regional commissioner, working in the structure of government, is still intact.
Regardless of who is in power.
Aidan Mohammed, Uhuru Kenyatta lives, Aidan Mohammed lives. Only if the new president thinks,
he's done a good job.
I can give you a job. So campaign.
You know, I personally think that among the things we do is, if we want to enshrine hypocrisy as a national quality that we engage and we even teach, then it is fine. It's the pretense that I'm concerned about. Because the truth is, every Kenyan votes, which means every Kenyan has a position that they cherish or they like more than the other. This discussion becomes a discussion because of the feeling that if somebody is aligned in a certain direction, then the public functions that their office holds will not be carried out well. It will be carried out with a bias. And I'm saying, but it already is carried out with a bias. If there is a permanent secretary who is my friend, a Kenyan like myself, and I go to that person with a problem, you think he is going to listen to my problem the same way he listens to an ordinary citizen who has a problem?
No, he's your friend now.
Precisely. All I'm saying is this. But would we say that prevents this person from actually carrying out the national duty? No, it doesn't. At the end of the day, even if that is what the law states, again, what we're discussing here is how seriously do we take the law?
Look, it will be very difficult because, look, the people who might be complaining about this today, just 5 years ago.
See, they're the ones who are on the other side.
Just 5 years ago, they were having this totally different argument, saying that, hold on a minute, you know, we are
what's
still
wrong with
using
Michelle doing
the what's wrong? Now you're complaining today, same thing that you also did. So when is it all right and when is it not?
It doesn't suit you.
Does it make a difference? Does work in the nation stop happening because CS Kagwe, CS whomever has stood up somewhere and talked about the need for two regions to come together, represented by Gentleman X?
No. Hypocrisy gives you an ability that you must look and admire. The ability to distinguish between, one, what suits you, between what you ought to do for the nation, what to do for your community, what you ought to do for your immediate family. Remember, distinguish you, family, nation, and then your political affiliation. We are able to distinguish. And you know, this one, Namfanya, so-and-so. This one is for so-and-so. This one, when you hear sasa wananchi watukufu, that are now national functions, national duties. And those divisions are clear in the minds of these people who are in position of authority. In fact, the reason why you're appointed and given those jobs is because it is hoped you understand.
Which side you're on, my friend?
It's hoped you understand.
In as much as it would help that you have, you know, academic qualification and, you know, historical, you know, experience in this area. Very good. However, the underlying thing is, my friend, you are on this side, and that is why you've been selected.
Yes.
I think you go in knowing that. You go in knowing very well that you've been, because essentially, what are we talking about? Cabinet members are part of the executive.
A cabinet member is partisan.
Of course, from the get-go.
Absolutely no way you'd expect.
No way a cabinet secretary is selected and you say this is somebody who's on the other side and we're bringing them in because of their expertise.
But also remember that these very people who are not supposed to be partisan are also selected by partisan individuals. These high appointments in government, the executive has a very big say.
Yes.
Yes, no.
It's true, but then there's somewhere where you can say, you can still do the job.
Yes.
Irrespective of. Now, a minister is partisan because a minister is coming to run the policy and the programs of this administration.
And we are appointed politically.
And that's why that's the reason why the cabinet is the highest decision-making organ of an administration.
So then
you sit, all of you, and decide, we decided, well, this is how we're going to run the government.
So then you have to ask the question, when you see a cabinet secretary, for example, politicking, what do you expect?
I expect them to politic.
Exactly. That's what That's the
I
position
personally
they're on.
Expect
What do you
a
expect
minister
them to do?
play politics. The person I don't expect to play. Now, I know they play politics, but the person that I'm saying I want to start drawing the line from is those in public service. Okay? From principal secretary to the others, under secretary, senior accountant, blah, 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 blah. Those ones, police officers.
So Eric,
no.
Are you saying they shouldn't do this openly? They shouldn't do it overtly?
Who?
Public servants, PSs, etc., etc.
The PSs and the police officers, they should not do it at all.
At all. Overtly,
You
in
know,
secret, without the lights
and
on.
doing
at
it
all.
and doing it is by, for example, standing up and saying, these people of this other side, these people of this other side, what they are doing and what they are thinking. Don't stand up, for example, and start talking about bottom up, for or against, or 6,000 shillings, for or against.
Meaning, don't publicly get involved in political issues.
Yes.
Don't get involved at all.
Do not.
Face your work.
There's a reason why I'm saying don't publicly get involved. For heaven's sake, I think you know.
Yes. Everything is publicly. Don't be caught doing it.
But ideally, they shouldn't be involved at all.
Yes.
No.
It's 9:30. Let's take this quick break and hear your views as well. 0719-012-600. After we take a look at the traffic and the weather forecast, we'll be opening up the phone lines. Is it okay for cabinet secretaries to be involved in political campaigns right now? This is because UDA has basically written to IEBC and they are complaining and they're saying they are threatening to take legal action to have cabinet secretaries Fred Matiang'i and Joe Mucheru removed from office. Why? Because UDA says they are campaigning for Raila Odinga. Is there anything wrong with that? Good morning. Let's hear from you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi, highs of 27 and lows of 15 today. It's sunny at 20 in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 16. 13 will be the low in a sunny Nyeri at 19, highs of 26. Eldoret going to highs of 25 today, will be sunny through most parts of today, come down to lows of 13. In Mombasa, sunny conditions at 29, highs of 31 and lows of 24. It's also going to be sunny throughout in Malindi with highs of 31 and lows of 26. The sun's out in Kisumu as well at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 20, while Kakamega is sunny at 24, will go to highs of 30 and lows of 17. Kampala is sunny at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam also got the memo at 29. The sun will be out with highs of 31 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is sunny at 18, highs of 22 and lows of 10. Surprise, surprise, Lagos is sunny too at 24, highs of 32 and lows of 23. Kinshasa, guessed it, sunny as well at 24. Highs of 33. Looking out into Paris, 3 degrees and cloudy, highs of 12. Beijing is mostly sunny at 5 degrees, however, coming down to lows of flat on 0. 5 degrees and clear in London, highs of 13. And coming into Monday, New York will see highs of 17. It's currently clear at 9.
Spice up your life.
Not quite yet out of traffic hour this morning. We're still looking at traffic coming off Ngong Road, getting into the CBD. Jogger Road also didn't stop since it started at 6 o'clock. And it still continues for some time. That whole Kamkunji circuit doesn't look pretty at all. Into the CBD is where most roads lead today. And Thika Superhighway still giving off that traffic coming off Pangani. And it's looking a little bit better on Kiambu Road today, as is on Limuru Road. It's thinning out that traffic. Hopefully it remains that way for most parts of the morning. But we'll keep an eye on things through the day. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
It's
Nairobi.
5 minutes to 10. Now let's hear from you. 0719-012-600. Is it okay for cabinet secretaries to get involved in political campaigns? So this is what the law says. The Leadership and Integrity Act, and this is 23. An appointed state officer other than a cabinet secretary or a member of a county executive committee shall not, in performance of their duties, act as an agent for or further the interest of a political party or candidate in an election, or manifest support for or opposition to any political party or candidate in an election. Basically, it says all other appointed officers, state officers, cannot be involved in this other than CS or CEC. If it's at the national level, the cabinet secretary, who is part of that government, or at the county level, the CEC. Everybody else, don't be involved. 0719-012-600. What do you think? I mean, what is the right thing to do here? Let's hear from you. Karanja.
Yes.
What do you think?
I think it's not allowed in international countries, but it is allowed in Kenya. You see, the Kenyan history, from 1963, state machinery had been used overwhelmingly to campaign for who the current regime
is supporting.
Succeed in the assurance.
Okay.
I think it is allowed in Africa, especially in Kenya, whereby we believe in party politics, whereby the leadership state now believes that the state machinery can be used to campaign for the next presidential candidate. Thank you very much.
But we are talking about ministers. Thank you very much, Karanja. Thank you. Brian in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
I think, Eric, you are getting it wrong. Those people who are appointed cabinet secretary, first of all, they are not even allowed to belong to political parties for a reason. They are supposed to execute their duties being impartial and apolitical. In this sense, when we got this Constitution 2010, it was because of what happened in 2007. Otherwise, we've been trying to change the Constitution forever until 2007 happened. And 2007 taught us a very unique lesson that politics can ban this country. And it's not even a matter of what you, even perception-wise, even if it's perceived that you're taking sides and you're not supposed to take sides, you can be able to ban this country. Take, for example, when the president, the deputy president were elected, they were facing a case in ICC. But because theirs was elective, they were allowed to vie. If, for example, a cabinet secretary was facing the same charges before appointment, they could not qualify to be appointed. So there's a distinction between elected state officers.
They could have qualified. What would bar them from being appointed?
When you're facing a case, trust you me.
Yeah,
look
but
at the
they
case
haven't.
of Nancy Baraza.
They haven't.
No, I'm telling you, you cannot be appointed a CS with a case in court.
You can bring that as an argument, but that is, there is no law that bars you.
You know, check at chapter 6, the first verse. It says, you will check chapter 6, it says something. The guiding principle of leadership and integrity goes on personal competence, integrity, blah, blah, blah,
Yes.
or an election in a free and fair. So it distinguishes an election and an appointive position. That's the difference. If
Brian.
CSS want to politics, they are free to resign, join a political party, and take a partisan stand. But so long as you are a cabinet secretary, even if you serve at the mercy of the president, you are not supposed to engage in politics. That's what the Constitution says. Whatever you are quoting is a statute. It's subordinate to the Constitution. The Constitution is superior. In law, there are hierarchy of laws.
And the Constitution does not
bars
say...
you, an act cannot. If Constitution bars you, an act cannot give you the authority to proceed.
The Constitution does not say that a cabinet secretary cannot
Article
participate.
77. Just check Article 77 of the Constitution.
Ngoja tuangalie saa hii tu. All right, I'll quote it shortly. Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning to you, my friend.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to clarify is,
Yes.
you know, these people, when election was being held,
Mm-hmm.
they had already taken side and they were supporting the incumbent.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe they must have contributed something towards the campaign or anything to do with the political formation during 2013 and 2017.
Yep.
So their interests are well served. And you cannot deny me the right of serving the person whom I have been with for the last 10 years and has served me well. And I said in one of the occasions here that you have to be where your interest is celebrated. So if these people, the CS and any parastatals, feel that their interest is well served in Kenyatta's wing, they are free to do so.
So
They
you
are
think
human
even
beings
board
and we cannot
chairpersons,
deny them their right.
even board members of parastatals should also be allowed to campaign?
Who appointed them?
The president
Yes.
or the cabinet secretary in charge of a ministry?
So that is their democratic wing, and they have to be given that authority.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
Sometimes, my friend,
Eh.
constitutions are always also being made by human beings, and the people who are making those amendments in constitution are also parliamentarians who are also politicians, and their rights, they have to mingle their rights inside so that they may be at par with whatever they are making in parliament.
Right.
Yes.
Asante, Anthony.
Oh, thank you. But look, call me later. There is something that I want to tell you offline.
Okay.
Okay.
John,
Good morning.
good morning.
I hope you had a nice weekend.
We did. Did you?
I did. I thank God.
Good.
This is a tricky one, very dicey, and it also extends to even to the parliament. You know, we say that parliament is independent, but MPs are elected on a particular party. For example, the Jubilee MPs are elected Jubilee ticket, and they are supposed to champion the manifesto of Jubilee in parliament. And then we come and tell them they are supposed to be independent. It's not possible. They are supposed to champion the values and the manifesto of the government, which is Jubilee. So they cannot be independent. And the same, even with this CS, to me it's the same. You cannot say they cannot champion the government, support the government side. The only challenge is one, at which we need to draw a line. I don't know how. I don't have an answer or an opinion on it. Where do you draw the line? How far do you go? If you say anybody can do that, next time the person in charge of the army will come and support somebody.
Yeah. And I think that's why there's a law, John.
Yes.
So the law has already drawn the line. The Constitution, let me read what Brian was saying. Article 77 of the Constitution, restriction on activities of state officers. 1. A full-time state officer shall not participate in any other gainful employment.
Yeah.
Cannot be a CS, and you are working as a doctor at Aga Khan Hospital.
Or you're a matatuana.
Gainful employment. Any appointed...
You're saying that's not gainful.
he realized what he had did.
No, you cannot be a matatu driver employed by a matatu
You can
owner.
own one,
You can
but
own.
to be doing the job of driving
Okay.
and then you're in cabinet. No.
2. Any appointed state officer shall not hold office in a political party.
Yes.
You'll not be Jubilee Secretary General, Jubilee what. 3,
Yes.
a retired state officer who receives a pension from public funds shall not hold more than 2 concurrent remunerative positions as chairperson, director, or employee of a company or a state organ. Now, the first 2 are the ones that are dealing with current state officers. Basically, you cannot be otherwise gainfully employed and you cannot hold a political party position. But that does not mean you cannot campaign. And that's why now the elections, the act comes and says that all appointed state officers shall not participate in campaigns where they are directly campaigning for or against a candidate apart from 2, a cabinet secretary and a CEC. So you see, the law has drawn the line.
Very clearly. There's no ambiguity here.
A chairman of a board cannot campaign.
Yes.
A PS cannot.
Cannot campaign.
Yes.
No.
Now, the interesting part is this, who is complaining now?
The people
It's
who
a UDA.
a few years ago were on the other side of the divide.
And if Jubilee was still intact and they were supporting the deputy president, I'm sure his ODM would be complaining today.
Of course.
Yeah. So if the law is as clear as you have stated, then we should not even be having this debate.
Oh, no. It doesn't matter how clear the law is. That debate will always be there.
So long as you're on the other side where it seems as though you're losing some benefit, you reserve the right to complain.
And also, we are questioning the law itself. Does this law actualize the wills and desires of the Constitution?
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was saying. Like the example I gave of the MPs.
Yep.
Is it practical when we say that MPs are supposed to be independent?
Yes.
How?
The independence has nothing to do with supporting the political parties. The independence has to do with the functions of parliament. Now, are we saying we elect people who are able to dichotomize this and determine when it is they're serving their party interests and when it is they're serving the interests of their people who elected them,
supposed to be representing,
and when are they serving the interests of the nation of Kenya?
And as their party, as they are serving their party interest, you see, the party was endorsed by the people, and that's why the party is ruling, or the party is a majority in the opposition.
Yes.
That means the will of the people is supreme
It
in
must
both
be
cases.
supreme, yes.
So why do parties fight to have majority in parliament?
So that they can have their people executing their mandate, which is the mandate that they were given by the people. The issues with parliament, I think, come from when people feel like it's not the political party that is moving things, but it's individuals. That now
Where do you draw the line, Latiff?
It's difficult to draw the line in this country because the individual and the political party leader, where do you draw the line?
The
party leader and an individual, where do you draw the line?
Yes, where do you know that this is an individual? Example, remember the most controversial, was it anti-terrorism law which was passed some time back?
The security laws, yes.
The security laws?
Yep.
And people are saying, the government was very clear they wanted to pass that law.
Yep.
And there are their reasons, and they believe it's the right thing. And the MPs, Jubilee MPs said, okay, we are going to support you. But you are saying, no, this is the time that you are supposed to be independent and vote against the government. So it is a difficult area. When we say independent,
Actually, John, no. When it comes to our politicians, it isn't difficult at all. Because the thing that they themselves have shown us with clarity how it is they make their decisions.
Based on?
Self-interest. It's not even complicated.
Stomach.
And that stomach extends to the party and to the government sometimes.
And to the country.
And to the country sometimes is not very few cases.
Anyway, John, thank you. Thank you. Let's hear from Enoch. Mwalimu Enoch in Kiambu.
Hello, how are you, sir?
Good. Very well.
One thing, when you read the Constitution, you read include all the law, not just you pick one and you run with it. When you read the Bill of Rights, that's on the discrimination, the Article 27, sub-Article 3, the state which the cabinet secretary serves should not discriminate. So when the cabinet secretary campaigns for one particular candidate, is discriminated, and that's a state discriminating. When you read the oath of office of the cabinet secretary, it states it serves, actually takes the oath on behalf, or it is on the Republic of Kenya.
Right, and they
Who
swear.
are the people? Yeah, they swear it on the people of Republic of Kenya, not the presidency, and not the party which has nominated him. So he's supposed to serve all the people across, not just a section of the people. So the law which you are quoting, yes, that's what it is saying, but there are other laws which also say something else different. Which I think you should read the Constitution inclusively, without picking just a few laws.
Okay.
Yes.
Haya, sawa, nimekusikia. Thank you, Enoch. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Peter Ingara, good morning.
Good morning, SpiceFM.
Morning.
I want to take a little bit of a different view of all these CFA should campaign or should not campaign. And I feel that people will start talking things in preparation to say that the election has been stolen, this side has been favored, and we will start building court cases even before 2022 elections have reached. When the deputy president is attacked, they will say it's because Matiang has done this or that. And I like what Mwalimu is saying. There is something that is called pretense. And we can always pretend. And we have pastors and priests, and they preach to us every Sunday, and they never tell us which side to vote for. But they have sides that they support. I would kindly request that the CSs and all these public officers should pretend until the end of the day, not to give the politicians a chance to say that is why the deputy president was stoned in this place or that place. That is why this political group is acting with impunity. That is my side of the story on all this. And I think politicians have already started to create a case where they will be building a case for 2022 and to say that this is why the election.
This is why it went wrong.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Zachary.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Zachary.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, how is everyone there?
Zachary, we are well. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you, Mwalimu. Yes, but can I tell you something about my lifestyle?
Please go ahead, Zachary. Tell us something about your lifestyle.
My Saturdays are dedicated to listening to classical music, yeah? And I feel very invigorated because yesterday I listened to the very best of Mr. Frederick Handel, yeah? George Frederick Handel. And I'm requesting that after the show, your producer praise this kind of, Whitney Houston's Who Would Have Imagined, yeah? Because we are in the Christmas mood and it's, we feel good. And Waribu, are you okay there?
Yes, I'm fine, Zachary.
Oh, thank you. You are an authority. You are an authority, and I was trained that the first authority is the parent, the second is the teacher, and the third, which is most ruthless, is the government, yeah?
Yes.
Unfortunately, today's kids, the Kamamu and the Kababa, we are not winning them that end. We are now facing the consequences. Now, to the point, I may ask you, who is complaining about the ministers who are participating in politics? Can you first of all ask them, and I would ask them, I know it is the so-called Tanga. They are complaining as who? First of all, we elected them on the Jubilee ticket, yeah? They became renegades, okay? And now they are fighting against the government that actually feeds them, yeah? So, if I were a judge, I would say that, okay, the complaint is valid, but it is coming from an null and void person, okay? That is what I would say.
But
and also, let me
if
say
you are not
this,
a judge, if you are not responding to the complaint by the UDA, is it right for a cabinet secretary to be involved in campaigns?
Let me say this, Mr. Eric, very quickly. This constitution is it actually eats itself. It actually eats itself, and it confuses itself because there is Mr. Matiang'i, the cabinet secretary. But there is Mr. Matiang'i, the person who will tell you, oh, I don't eat mureda. I don't eat ugali. That is the person that the Constitution does not recognize. Okay? The fact is that Mr. Zachary Gikonyo and I'm calling SpiceFM, and I know that it is upon my responsibility to use, palatable language, does not prohibit me from calling another station that is vulgar and saying whatever I want,
That's true. Okay.
So, Mr. Matiang'i has got the right to actually express his personal interest as a person.
As an individual. Sawa.
Yes.
Thank you, Zachary. Thank you. Let's hear from Jimmy. Jimmy, we only have about 2 minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Morning too. Okay. Otherwise, Malindi is okay. Just going straight to the point.
Yes.
It is unconstitutional and it is against the law of the Republic for a cabinet minister to deliberately make a political stand, which that cabinet minister is making a deliberate mistake. You know that it is not right for a cabinet minister to talk anything or to take sides on issues of politics. You see? But now, let's go back to where the president was complaining. The president did not accept to endorse the judges that were passed by the by the commission, which has been set aside by the judiciary, on the reasons of these people were not they don't qualify because they lack credibility. There are people who have been involved with specific issues which are not constitutional. Then I come and I wonder, how would Matiang'i? You look at YouTube channels. He confesses by himself. It's not me. It is not nobody. It's not anyone else. It is Matiang'i himself. Go to YouTube. Look at Matiang'i's statement on
So bottom line, because we're coming to the end of the show, Jimmy, what you're saying is you do not support cabinet secretaries getting involved or pronouncing themselves on the political campaign.
I do not support, and on support for that, why would someone say that he is the head of Nchinkororo?
Nisawa, Jimmy.
A criminal group.
You've said this before and we've heard it. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you very much, Jimmy. It's about a minute to the top of the hour, so we have to come to the conclusion of this. Ndovu says, look at the Public Officers and Ethics Act, Article 16. Yes, it talks about public officers. Cabinet secretaries are state officers. That's why they are covered in the other one. City, let's conclude with the day's proverb.
Esuj erashe ngejuk emusana. A new idea follows an old one.
A new idea follows an old one.
This entire discussion we're having, it's not a new discussion. Insofar as it is being had today, it is new today. But it's following an old one we've always had. Yes. Why do people do the things they do? Why do they support the people they support?
Yeah.
And
should they not?
Yes, and why are politicians
Raila has complained about John Michuki before,
Yes.
Matiang'i. Now it's Ruto complaining about Matiang'i. So we are just in that same space.
Yes, we are.
Until we get to a point where we get to agree or disagree.
And insofar as we agree, and that agreement usually is brief in this country if it's political. And then when we disagree, this song and dance begins all over again.
Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning where we have more conversations between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. You have some lovely music coming up for the next 1 hour, and then Sugar and Spice, Yolanda, and DJ Absolute will be here from 11. Have a lovely day, folks. It's now 10 a.m.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the